Capcom are being quite frank about the new Dead Rising. Hello and welcome to Triangle Square, the PlayStation Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Beck, and alongside me, as always, or at least 99.95% of the time, is Mr. Chris Figs. Chris, it's been a week. As you know, you had some weather that changed some stuff on your side, and because of that, it pushed up against the fact that on the day I normally edit, I would have no power. Mm-hmm. So in case you aren't on the Discord or on the Twitter or whatever, wherever we put the updates on, if you're not on there, we are late. We are aware. Thank you for your patience. We hope that you enjoy the episode.
We're pregnant.
Chris.
Oh, is it too early? I'm sorry.
Well, the reveal's gone. Now I got these pink-filled balloons. Oh, shit. Now I gave the gender away.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about how old Atreus is or whatever is their gender.
Well, you know what? We're going to be talking about Atreus, at least slightly and around it here in a little bit when we get into the community's take. But first and foremost, if you're new to the show, welcome. We appreciate you checking us out. We are a gaming podcast who looks at the industry through the eyes of primarily being PlayStation fans. I think Chris and I have got long histories of playing on various consoles when and where we want to. But as we've long said throughout, this year, it's becoming easier and easier to stay on one or two platforms than ever before, just due to how the industry is shaking up. So if that sounds like something that interests you, then we hope you stick around. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about Sony finally removing a kind of dumb requirement from PS5. Also, them teaming up with former Left 4 Dead people for a new game, and Capcom working on something new in the Dead Rising world. So before we get into there, we always start the show off with a time-honored tradition of checking in on what we've been playing so that maybe you can find the next game that you want to play, or you can just get some thoughts on a game that you thought you wanted to play, and after hearing some thoughts on it, you may have decided it's best to go on to the next thing on your list, or anything in between. So, Chris.
Hey.
It feels like it has been a long 2 weeks in terms of how much I've played.
Nice.
Looking at your list, it doesn't seem like that's entirely wrong for you either, but you've got one big gun on your list. So I'm going to let you choose on when. So first and foremost, what is the first game on your list that you would like to talk about today?
Let's just talk about Satisfactory because I don't have a ton to say. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's just a factory builder, and it very much scratches an itch for me that hasn't been scratched in a while since like some stuff I played on PC, like Oxygen Not Included. I really enjoy one of the things that I don't feel like I get as much from survival games that I get here, because if you looked at this game, you'd be like, oh, this is like The Forest, but you create a factory, but to me, it's like, what I love about this is like, you can get to a point where, so like right now I'm still very early, but I have my factory leveled up pretty high, but I have a thing that's making iron ore, that's like mining ore. And then I have a conveyor belt going out to auto smelt iron pallets. And then that goes out to automatically make like other things with it. And then you have these splitters for the conveyor belts that go to all these different buildings, and they all converge again and then go to the storage containers. And it's just extremely satisfying to watch it all like just go automatically and start working. So yeah, I'll be interested to see like how deep into that I get. It's a game that like, I feel like you would probably agree with this. It's one of those games where like, I'll either play it for like 3 days really intense and never again, or we're going to be talking about it, how I spent like 5 hours every night just sitting there watching numbers go up and getting very satisfied, and then like occasionally like going out and doing my own thing and then just standing there watching the numbers go up. So it depends on that, but I think so far it's pretty good. It's been out on PC for like a year or two now, so it's just coming to PS5 now.
Yeah, finally making its way over. That's nice. I love seeing things that make sense on console finally making their way over. I think it's quick in this modern era to get so used to just things releasing on everything pretty close to each other. But then there's sometimes small games like this that take a while to make their way over, or a game like what you mentioned where Sons of the Forest is still not on PlayStation or Xbox, or has even been announced for them, despite the first game already having been on consoles. I'm pretty sure by this time in the same life cycle of the first game. So who knows why or what, or how these things end up going. But then you also have the big hitters like Red Dead 2 and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, it takes a little while for it to make its way over to PC.
Or
but
Hades
it gets there.
2 that just goes to the Switch for some reason.
Yeah, like what the fuck's going on there? But that's okay. It's in a way, it's part of what's happening with the industry that we talked about with it's getting easier to play one place, and that I think our expectations over when things come and where they come is getting a little bit harder, because there was a point in my life where if a game didn't come to PlayStation, it was like, that's just how it is. Games that come out on PC come out on PC, games that come out on console comes out on console, and exclusives come out on only that one. And that's just been withering away, either entirely with day and date releases or with like delayed releases, like Sony's PC effort of moving some of their exclusives over. So it's definitely something crazy to go through. It sounds an awful lot like what you're talking about, because of course I would have thought, okay, it's a factory builder, but then you're bringing in something like the forest. So I'm assuming there's ideas of like light combat and exploration involved within this, so that you get this kind of survival element tacked on to the otherwise kind of builder.
I know I was watching a video from Coffee Stain, who's the developers and the publishers, I think, but that's neither here nor there. And they were saying like they're never going to add like base defense and all this kind of stuff. Like that's not the type of game it is. But like you get this like stun baton, and like when I was walking around, I would get attacked by what looks to be like ankylosauruses, and they're just like hitting me, and like you can shoot them down, and then you get meat from them. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say. I think it's just, you collect. It's very much you punch trees, except in this one you're punching rocks, and you're doing it so that you can upgrade your tower or your house or whatever it is. But in this one, it's a factory. There are some like quality of life things that I think I would have on PC that I don't have here, which are a little annoying. But otherwise, like overall, I think it's just really fun. It's really like it scratches the itch of like organizing. I don't know how to explain it any other way.
So is it a similar but like related, like a cousin of the itch that gets scratched from like a cookie clicker?
Yeah, oh for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured from what
Number
you're saying.
Go Up is good.
Yeah. Also, banging ass name.
Yeah.
This is a good game, like good name for this game. So that's nice to see. I'm gonna get my first one out of the way. I have now platinumed and completed Ghost of Yotei, and I feel much more confident in what I have stated about the game, as well as the fact that I do love the game. And we will dig a little bit more into talking about that whenever we get to the community's take. So for now, it was Plat 248. It is a great game. You should definitely go pick it up and try it out. In going into it, just like everything, it's going to be curious to see who likes it more than the previous game and who likes it but thinks that the previous game was better. There's no world in which I view you as, and game being better is, the sum of its parts, but there's no world in where you liked Tsushima and you hate Yotei. That's just, there is no world in where any reasonable person who doesn't have ulterior motives liked one and hates this one. It is impossible. You can have critiques about this one, things you would have wished you saw move more or not move enough, whatever it be. That's just not, there's not a world in where I can see that happening. So I don't want to dig too much into it. I talked a lot about some of my actual gripes with it last week, but as for as many gripes as I have, there's also a lot of great to be had there. And we'll talk a little bit about some updates that it received as well. So it's nice to see how that ended up working out. So Chris, what's next on your list, man? Actually, real quick, do you plan on playing Yotei anymore? Or do you think
I deleted it already?
Yeah, I figured, but I was curious.
I guess why don't we knock out our joint game, because I feel like we don't have a ton more to say, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think there's one aspect of it in particular that I want to talk about, which I thought was interesting in the last 2 weeks since we've played, that has come around on this game. So that is, of course, Arc Raiders, correct?
Yeah, I was thinking Arc Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you have probably played just a little bit more than me, but for the most part, I'd say that, oddly enough, our playing of the game has more or less lined up.
Yeah, we've played a good amount, surprisingly.
Yeah, it has.
Nice.
Also, a one-armed wolf, I know that you're listening. You're always offline every time I get on to play, or we already have a full 3. So holler at me, man. If you see I'm on, or even if you don't think I'm on and you're on and you're looking for someone to play, shoot me a message. Shoot Chris a message. Who knows? We might be willing and down to play. Every now and then I'll turn my my thing to show offline for various reasons, and I'll forget to put it back on. So it may show that I'm offline and I'm not. But back to Arc Raiders talk. Chris, you've played at this point significantly more than me, but we've both played quite a bit. This deep into it, I think it's fair to say that both of us primarily view it as a game that is meant to be kind of a social. I mean, the game has definitely got its merits as well, but a big component of it continues to be the social aspect. Do you think that's fair to say for you?
No, I don't like playing it with people, actually.
Really? So you still prefer playing it?
There's there's a whole argument that you and I could make offline about that, but I much prefer playing Arc Raiders by myself, actually.
That's interesting. Have you played more by yourself than, because like the last 2 weeks, I feel like if you've been on, it's been with Sean or I. Typically Sean and I.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing right now is like, I like playing Arc Raiders, but a lot of the time I would just rather play something else, which is not a hit on Arc Raiders. It's just like one of the games on my list is fucking one of the best games of all time. So like,
maybe this is not the best week to compare it.
Yeah. So it's like, why would I want to play Arc Raiders when I could be going back to, Cancer Snake? And I'm just at a point with it where it's like, I don't want to say I got my fill, but like I'm very much content with playing it on the periphery occasionally. So I tend to have my friends will tend to just hit me up, and like sometimes I'll just straight up ignore them. But then other times I'm like, all right, well they've invited me the past 4 nights and I've ignored them the last 3. So how about I play tonight? So it ends up being like, oh yeah, I'll play one with Sean, and then I'm like, well I don't want to. So it's like, I'll be like, just quick, let's get Brett in here, because Brett is, a very relaxing person to play with, and he's good at the game and enjoys it. So we're like, all right, we'll do this. So like I'll go in and do it. But like what ends up happening to me when I'm playing by myself is like, this is what happened yesterday. I was stuck on a boss, and again, one of the other games we'll talk about, in Khazan, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do a couple free loadouts in Salamantis, and then I'm gonna go back to the boss. So like that's how I've been playing it. And I think the thing is like, just base level is like, I don't play Arc Raiders concerned about my backpack,
Yeah.
And the people that I do play with are very much like, oh, we're gonna hide, and then we're gonna like fuck over a team that's already almost dead. And I'm like, I hear shots, let's go. like that's how I play it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because I do know that I have fun playing with y'all, so it's not a complaint by any means. It's just an observation of where it's coming from whenever we're doing that. Is I see no reason to be friction point. So like if y'all really are wanting to like tag a team, and it sounds like at this point you're just kind of going that Sean really likes to be contentious with other players. Maybe it's a way to say that.
Though. That's what the thing that frustrates me is, it's like, because again, it's just different play styles, but like I think it happened when we were playing, and this is not like again, it's just different play styles. So like no one listening to this should be offended if for some reason they're listening, but we've had fights where it's like we sneak for like 10 minutes and then they get the first shot, and it's like, we gotta fucking go. I'm like, fuck that. Like, we're here with free loadouts. Why are we leaving?
Yeah.
Like, what's the fucking point? Like, I don't know. That annoys me. Like, I'd rather take the one hit. Like, obviously, if I'm down to like no health, like sure, whatever, we should go. But like sometimes you'll get hit once, and it's like, oh, they got the better vantage point. We gotta go. I'm like, dude, that's just fucking why we came in to fight. Like, even if we lose, who gives a shit? There's nothing in my backpack. Like, what do we care?
Yeah, it's also, that's the weird thing about that game, is like, what are you willing to lose? And that's why. Man, so part of what I really wanted to get to talking about on there, and this will be a kind of a way to segue into it, but real quick to your point, and I guess to finish what I was saying is, a I'm very content with just playing, and like if a fight finds me, I'm not upset that it found me, and I'm not mad that the game has that as an element. If someone's chasing after me and coming for me, then I'm going to defend myself and try and do what I can to kill them, and that there's fun to be had in that. But I don't think there's been a time in the game yet where I have purposely approached someone and been like, oh, I'm looking for people to fuck up. I'm more like I'm playing the game, and I know that if I run across other people who might have some friction with the fact that they see me and either want to kill me out of preventative fear of the fact that I might be doing the same to them, which is a completely valid reason in that game. Sometimes it's better to kill so that you know that they're not stabbing you in the back.
Well, it's funny.
Or people who are just trying to literally be like, oh, I'm coming for you. I saw somebody antagonized now. Yeah. And so for me, playing with Sean, a lot of the times I feel like he suddenly is like, let's pull the trigger. Oh, I hear shots. I see a flare. I see a Raider flare. Let's go. And then for me, I've only played solo a very few number of times. So I'm just kind of like, I'm just chilling. And if somebody comes up on me, I do what I got to do. It's like,
yeah.
It feels like a story in like a movie about being in the hood and trying to just be like, I don't want no trouble, but if trouble finds me, that's just
trying to pick up blunt wraps. Leave me alone,
Yeah, let me go. But that's the fun I have with the game, and so playing with y'all is fun. And it's interesting because like one of the times that we played recently, I got killed because it was pretty hectic immediately when we went into Stellamanus. And whenever we were doing it, so I got like 2 minutes into the game and got killed from being surrounded by the back. There were so many teams coming off, but y'all managed to survive, and y'all actually managed to go through 90% of the level, and I think Sean still evacuated, so that
Sean
was pretty cool.
I didn't.
But you got very close until suddenly it just stopped working. But what was cool about that is like I kind of see like the few times that I did play Apex with you, I could kind of hear that version of you where it's like you get really locked in and you are good at the game, like you mentioned. So it's like it was interesting seeing you like lock in and kind of do smart moves and be like, oh, okay, even over Sean, who love him. He likes to kind of take control of the situation. I think he likes to view himself often as the leader of the squad, and I sit back and let him because I'm not there to worry that much about it. But it was interesting because there was a few times where I kind of saw you like not in an aggressive or even in like a frictionful way, but you were just kind of taking over in that role and be like, no, this is what we're doing. And I noticed in playing or watching you play, because it lets you what is that?
Spectate.
Why can't I think of the word? Spectate the other player. So I'm watching you and I'm hearing you in the chat as we're going through. And I'm like, oh man, Chris is kind of like leadershiping it up right now. Like he's kind of taking the foot. He knows what he's doing. He's calling shots and kind of choosing where to go. And so I was like, I could see why Chris likes whenever he's wanting that. I can see why you still like that, because clearly, early days of the show, you were super into that in Apex, and every time I played with y'all, that's what y'all were doing. And I've not seen that as often in Arc Raiders, but every now and then when we're playing, I'm like, oh, Chris is locked the fuck in right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's the thing is like me and Sean were talking about it yesterday, right? And it's like, we had this one fight where I was going super aggressive and just ignoring what they were telling me to do. And like, because I'm like, no, this is like, I'm going for this fight. Like, it's right here. This is what we came in here to do. I'm not standing in the fucking woods with you two watching them with sniper rifles. I'm going. And like, it was funny, like afterwards, to have them be like, "Yeah, we would have survived if you guys just were not playing like pussies." Like that's literally what I said to them. He's like, well, "I don't know," and I'm like, "I killed 2 of them by myself. Like you just needed to be there, but you were watching in the fucking bushes, And like, so that's I think why like part of me is like more interested in going in solo. We've talked about it before, but like I know how to play video games, and I know how to play these video games, and like sometimes like you've experienced it where it's like, oh, bring this and this, and I'm just like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that.
I think Sean's been pretty chill on this one, but that leads me to kind of what I was wanting to transition into, which is I know that a point of contention for this game and the people playing it, and of course the designers, and this is just, I think this is the kind of friction that normally kind of has me fall out of these games eventually, which I fall out of all games. So I don't want to overly put onto games as a service style games being the cause of the problem. I just think it's a little bit more exaggerated in those games than it is in others, which is this thing where there's a lot more of a friction between what the designers are wanting and what the player base thinks is a good idea. And so I've seen a lot of conversation happening online in Reddit, on Twitter and all these places of kind of people going through what's the value of the free loadouts. Some people think that they're too strong and that they need to be nerfed, if not outright removed. Some people think that they are fine and just as is okay. Some people think that they are 100% necessary and they should not be taken out because they act as a way for you to build up with this gameplay loop, because eventually it's too punishing if you never have the option for a free loadout outside of the one that you get in the introduction. Then you run into the problem of, okay, then I literally may run out of resources and I just can't play the game because I don't have. So either the loadout's free or you make one gun and one backpack option free in the crafting menu to always be made whether you have the resources or not, which is just kind of kicking the can down the road. And so that's been interesting because I think Stella Montis has brought a lot of this out in people, because people are going into Stella Montis and it's known for being like a high loot area. So people are very aggressive and wanting to fight each other. And they also know that people are like running in with good kits. And so there are people who are getting pissed that people are dying in Stella Montis and being like, oh, these fucking assholes only had a free kit. There's not even anything good here. And it's like, yeah, that the game encourages you to go into sometimes the game without the risk of what might you lose if you go in. And so that mixed with the fact that the game the last 2 weeks that we've been playing has started doing this thing where after every run, it's like, how did you like the run as a total on one? And then the next one's like, how did you feel about the PvP elements of this? And then the next one's like, how did you feel about running a free loadout? And it's wanting you to rate them. And I'm like, you can tell that they feel some sense of friction within the community, at least the people who are being vocal, and they're trying to make sure with the rest of the player base what the reality is, because
I will say
it gives
with that,
everyone opportunity. So what do you think about that?
The ratings thing has been in the game since launch, so like that's less of a, I think that's just them gathering data more than like hearing the community,
which is fair, but I guess I never saw it until the last 2 weeks, and so it may have been that they've prompted the frequency of it to be significantly higher.
Maybe, I don't know. I think the free loadout thing is just, I don't think the game works without free loadouts. I can see why they'd be annoying, and I would say maybe, if anything, I would be like, no free loadouts in a night raid, or electromagnetic storm, any of those that limit it. But I think without free loadout, like the game is PvPvE, right? And without free loadouts, it's only going to be PvP. Because if I go in with a free loadout, there's a chance I'll let you walk away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Whereas
because I'm not worried about
that changes entirely if you know that you run the risk of losing everything you've worked for up into.
Right. If I bring in a kit that's worth $70,000 before I even loot, I'm not taking a risk on you, dog. Like, I'm gonna shoot you. It happened to me yesterday. I was playing a solo run. I brought a good kit in. I was doing like a matriarch run, and I'll be honest, I was planning to kill people. But there was this guy who was running in front of me. I could have let him go, but I'm like, my shit's too good. So I shot him in the back and killed him. And, you can hear the game chat and he's like, oh, yeah, I was just going after the matriarch. And I was just like, I didn't know that. I took all his shit, but like, that's my point is like, I don't know what he's doing here.
Exactly.
So
it doesn't even matter what he says. He could be lying.
Well, it's like even yesterday, right? And this wasn't a bad experience, but it's funny because you were talking about betraying each other and stuff. And like, I was doing a run on Stella Montis and I was leaving, and I went into game chat, which I rarely do. I rarely go into the game chat, but I went into the game chat and I'm like, I'm just trying to extract, because the guy had already called the thing. I'm just trying to extract. Let me get on. He's like, yeah, man, no problem. And then I come down the stairs and he domes me in the face and knocks me down. And then he goes, okay, you can get on. And I went, oh. Well, I get it, because he was like, I'll let you leave, but you're not betraying me. So he knocked me down so I couldn't shoot him, and he still let me on the train and extracted me.
Yeah, 100%.
I was literally, I went to the chat. I'm like, good for you. Fair play.
It's
cool.
legit. Yeah. It's like, you can crawl over here. Come on, guy.
Yeah, like I'll let you leave, but like, I'm not fighting you. And like, I wouldn't have fought him, but like, I'm going to do that every time now. So like,
yeah, smart thing to learn. I just think that balance with any game, right? You do have to balance making the onboarding essentially fun for every person who's going to come into it. And then you have this secondary thing where it's like, okay, now that we've figured out the onboarding, We got to make sure that there's at least a decent balance, and that the onboarding to be easy for skill levels of all, to still just be able to hop in and play the game, to not completely fuck up the people who are trying to play at the highest tier. But I think you and I have talked a lot about sometimes the people playing at the highest tier, the things they want fuck the game up for everyone else on the way to getting to the highest tier. And that doesn't work either, because you can't just let people get to the highest tier and then let them have full say over what they do with the game the rest of the way, because then no one has the ability to get to the highest tier, because even though they don't want to admit it, the people at the highest tier have to go, oh, that was a stepping stone. That was something for me to get here. So
I think one of my big takeaways is just that, like, anytime a game gets popular like this, there's people who go into playing it not understanding what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem Arc Raiders is facing now, where you see people being like, I want just a PvE server. It's like, but that's not the game.
And like, okay, it's fine to voice that opinion. And I say this because, like, there's in our Discord, Sweet Jones mentioned that he would love to see a type of game like this that focused entirely on PvE. But the closest thing he has right now, which is Helldivers, and I do agree that Helldivers in many ways is probably about as close as you can get to an extraction shooter without including any PvP. So it does the job. I mean, at least it's the closest thing I can think of in the market. But it's not wrong to have the opinion. It's wrong to come and go, no, Arc Raiders should be this. Not, oh, I want something like Arc Raiders that's new but fills this role. It's no. Arc Raiders has to change to be what I want it to be.
Exactly.
Like, okay, hold up.
And maybe this is a question that he can answer for me, because I'm curious. What's the point of a PvE extraction shooter? Like, what are you doing in that game? Arc Raiders is fun because every time I go in there, there's a chance I'm going to lose my shit. That's what's fun about it. It's the risk reward. And that's why, like, over the past few times, like, Sean's like, oh, I want to get these trials done. I have to get all this loot. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about that. Like, I don't care. Like, same. You know, like, it's important, and like I'll contribute shit to my expedition. I'll craft and I'll do my workbenches because there's trophies for that. But like,
it's like I don't give a shit about the dailies and stuff like that. Like, that's Sean's bread and butter. That's why he liked Destiny so much, right? It's like he has a tendency to like games that want you to play in the minutia way, which I respect. I actually kind of like that games like that know, like, okay, for people who do just want to sit here and play this game endlessly, let's give them some challenging ways to force them to shake up their gameplay.
And the thing is, like, I'm gonna go looking for lemons to upgrade my chicken, right? Like, I'm gonna look for the lemons.
Yeah.
But if I don't find the lemons, I'm not gonna crash out.
Yeah.
And we both know that there's people we play with who would crash out over not finding the lemons. Regardless of that, that's beyond the point I was curious about. It's like, what, you ask for a PvE extraction shooter, but why? Like, what's the point? Like, even in Helldivers, people are calling it an extraction shooter. And I'm like, it's not. Like, it's not. Like, yeah, sure, you get out with the samples, but it's not.
Yeah. It's not, but that's why I say I think it's the closest example I've seen.
It is for sure the closest example. I just don't understand the gameplay loop. If there's no risk, you're going into loot against super hard enemies, which that honestly sounds more frustrating because the Arc enemies are pretty hard. And if they were harder, I don't know if I would play the game.
Yeah. Well, to your point, what I think is interesting is, so like you're talking about like why would you even want that? And I mean, it's a good question. Like I'm curious to hear what his answer is too, because I mean, maybe he has like an interesting way that he looks at the game or the style of game that I haven't thought of. But to me, whenever I kind of put my mind through the paces on what I think that would look like, it seems an awful lot like what you want is essentially just a normal survival game.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Pacific Drive or The Forest or Conan Exiles. Because all of those things, you can still die. You still run the risk of losing whatever you drop when you die for resource-wise, and you either have to recraft it or go and run the risk of getting yourself hurt to go get it back, which in a pseudo weird way, that is part of Arc Raiders. Arguably speaking, you can lose something and then go back in another run and try and kill yourself back to something comparable, but it's not quite the same. But I feel like a survival game already solves that niche. And basically what an extraction shooter is doing, going, hey, what do you like about survival games? And the fact that when they're co-opable, now let's put that into an environment where we add in other players doing the same thing and wanting to compete against you.
it just, I don't know, a single player, like not even a single player, but a PvP or PvE only extraction shooter just kind of seems to me like asking for Conan Exiles to load every 10 minutes into a menu. And I don't know why you'd want that.
Instead of a continuous world. Because in a weird way, I haven't even thought, like you didn't play it this way, and I didn't either, actually. It just wasn't where my interest lied. But Conan Exiles does have PvP. And it is a PvPvE, because if you play on the normal versions of the game, they are live servers where you go in with a character and you play with other characters in the same server as you, and they can kill you or help you. And it's a lot of what we're talking about just pushed down into the not wanting it to be, I guess, part of what Arc Raiders is doing, as well as putting the PvP element first and foremost, and not giving you another option, is, like you said, doing this almost roguelite version of it, where it's like, okay, you're going in, but it's not a continuous world. Every single time that you go in, there's something new. Or, you know what I mean? It's not that there's new players, there's new risk. We're restarting the process of what the risk reward system in this game looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting, but Arc Raiders is awesome. So
it's a really good game, and I do look forward to playing more of it. But like you said, I think it's a great way to say it. I am very okay with playing this game on periphery. Like, if it's just on the edge of what I'm doing, it's fun. I don't think that I could see myself mainlining this game in any real capacity, just because it's not, that's not my gaming tendencies.
And it just doesn't seem like what it's for. Like, I feel like if you went in, because like I did this yesterday, like I ran, I think 6 or 7 runs by myself, just free loadouts, stacked up, and then left. And it was great. Like I had a great time. So it depends. It's not going to be a game I know life. Like that's the thing. Like I could spend the next 2 weeks and platinum the game and do all that stuff, but I'd rather just have it there when I want to play it. Like I play it it's not like I don't play it. I play it almost every day.
Yeah.
But there's, sometimes like I don't want to wear a headset and talk to people while I'm playing. Like it's just I'm sorry. So anyway,
that's a big, my big ass head. That's a big concern for me. I'm over here just like, okay, Chris asked me, do I want to play Arc Raiders? Do I want my head to hurt in 30 minutes? Do I want my ear, whatever this part of your ear is called, do I want it to hurt?
Yeah, I have to find the USB for you. That's why I haven't sent the headsets yet, but I will.
Oh shit. Okay, it's all right. We'll see how things go. I mean, honestly, if PlayStation would let me just connect my Pixel Buds to it, like anybody else would, but this is a problem across all devices. They only want to let you run their Bluetooth devices. I remember Bluetooth. The PS3 days when you could hook anything like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
so
what game is next for you, my friend?
Next game for me, I'll do Lego Batman 3 because it's a quick one. I am about 60% of the way through the game. Really fun. I continue to just enjoy what the Lego games are doing. There's something about their particular brand of collectathon within a little platformer / light combat game that works, and I think that they are excellent handheld games. And I think that goes also into the fact that I told you I didn't like the design of the console ones that I'd played that were of the kind of previous ilk. But I kind of find the bite-sized mission structure of the way that they do it in the handheld, as well as the simplified versions of the gameplay, that's still fun, still has a challenge, but it's something you can pick up for 10 minutes and put down and feel like that was good, I made progress. I've been really enjoying that because I have been juggling through games on the Vita, and so Lego Batman 3 has been that one where it's like I'm not about to get the platinum, so I'm just playing it passively and with fun, almost like you're talking about with Arc Raiders, right? Where I throw it on to specifically be I'm making progress, but not in the kind of sweaty way like I was with some of my other games, where it's like, okay, I'm right at the end. I just need this play session, maybe one more where I can hopefully get these last 2 trophies and call it quits. So that's been cool. I enjoy that aspect of it. And it's a game I never got around to. So finally seeing how the story's going and what they're doing with Brainiac and how they're continuing to pull that through. The game kind of threw me for a loop in a weird way where I was like, is this the end already? And then it just kind of went out. I was like, yeah, this is a nice little twist around. So yeah, the Lego games for the win again, man. I love it.
The Lego games are great.
Yeah, they're good fun. So let's hear about first Berserker, because that game was on my radar and it still is. It looks fucking sick. That and Phantom Blade Zero are like 2 games where I'm like, both of these look really cool. I hope that they're actually as cool as they look.
Yeah. First Berserker is really good. and I was kind of surprised because it was a game that wasn't on my radar really. Like, it was one of those, like, I've heard of it. I thought it looked cool, and it was mostly being sold to me on the backs of like podcasters talking about it. And then I had a $150 gift card to PlayStation, so I'm like, fuck it. I spent a lot. I bought a bunch of stuff on Black Friday. Like, I think I bought that and some Postal Boomer Shooter, Age of Empires, and then I'm like, I got $50. I'll just pick this up. And yeah, I've been playing through it, and I'm like, I have mixed feelings on some of it because it's a dark. I would actually say it's more akin to Sekiro than Dark Souls. It's very parry heavy, which I don't know. You know me, like, that's my type of Dark Souls. Like, Sekiro is my favorite one because of the parry system and how fun that felt. And this is just like that.
Also, probably makes sense as to why you like Bloodborne so much too, because that game's much more aggressive and you want to be doing things like parries and stuff to get your big moves off. So
I played Souls games like I play Arc Raiders. Let's fucking go. So like with Berserker, it's funny because it has a story that I'm actually like relatively into, and part of me thinks that makes it worse.
Interesting.
Because let me cook, because I think the thing with it, right, is like I get frustrated with Dark Souls where, like, I understand that you're going to tell me it has a story, but it doesn't have a story. Like, there's a story there, but it doesn't force it on you. So like I never feel like when I'm playing Dark Souls or when I'm playing Elden Ring or I'm playing Bloodborne that I'm looking forward to the next cutscene, right? So when you're fighting a boss 50 times and that's 3 hours of gameplay, there's nothing in the back of my head that's like, oh, I need to see what the spider that's 1,000 feet tall with sword hands is doing next.
So it's like the frustration of getting stuck on a boss is worse whenever you are like, I'm excited to see what happens next, and you're specifically keeping me from it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It almost is bad because I'm like, oh, I want to see what's going to happen next. Like, what's going on? And then I'm fighting a boss for an hour and a half and I can't get there. But even in like the regular gameplay, right, it's like you have these, it's the typical one of these games. It has the shortcuts. It has all of that stuff. But like for me, it's like, okay, I fight this gauntlet of bosses, or I fight through this path, and then I die at the end of the path. So I have to do it again. And again, all of these things are not bad, because the game is awesome, the combat's really good, but I want to see what's happening next, you know? And this has like full cutscenes. It's all acted. It's not this weird esoteric, like, oh, if you pay attention to the fact that his nose grows on the painting in the back, you'll get this story of Pinocchio. Like, it's not that, you know?
Sure.
This is very much like, we're going to tell you a story and you're going to enjoy it, but it takes away from the game in a little bit because I'm excited to see that story. So I'm getting a little bit more frustrated with the bosses. It's a weird thing.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's kind of, I won't say it's keeping me from it, but it's like I have a slight hesitation about Silent Hill F, specifically because I'm like, okay, Silent Hill games are all about the story and making sure that the horror is effective by having the combat freak you out, terrify you, act as a sense of like, oh, this is a challenge, but it's also meant to build friction and kind of terror on the way through the events of the game. But one of the things that's also true of Silent Hill games is that they have a tendency to be sort of vague in their storytelling until suddenly one piece of information towards the end of them makes you go, I get it all now. You saw that in Silent Hill 2 when you played it, where it's like a lot of Silent Hill 2 feels like you don't quite understand what James is doing until suddenly something you see makes you go, okay. But so I think about Silent Hill F, and I'm not saying that this is what the game is, but one of the things that started happening around the conversation for the game is like, oh, the combat is a specific way, and people being like, why are you doing like a Sekiro Souls-like style combat in my Silent Hill game? I don't think it's that. I think it's much more difficulty focused action horror, but not like Resident Evil style, you know? And so to that end, I'm kind of in the same thing where I'm like, okay, they do say that they wanted the bosses to feel difficult, and I appreciate that, and in a way I respect it. But without me playing it yet to know how difficult they truly are, I do have that thing in the back of my head where I'm like, But what if I'm right on the cusp of an interesting piece of information and the story is trying to tell me that and I can tell that, but then I'm stuck here? Am I going to get frustrated that I can't figure out what's happening in this story because of a soft, filter moment for me? And what will that do? Does that push you away from the game? So that's not actually an indictment on Silent Hill F. I haven't played it. But it's interesting that I think sometimes certain types of game styles either, I don't know if I want to go as far as to say they should never be mixed, because I mean, clearly there are probably people that love First Berserker Khazan as is, with no, but I think there's at least something to be say where it's like, yeah, of course. But I guess I should say that there's someone who views that and it's like, I don't see that as a problem at all. Whereas you're kind of like, if I could change one thing, maybe it would be the balance of difficulty to this to kind of play that out. But regardless, it's interesting because I think sometimes it's like, it's not that they can't mix. It's just certain things need to be really fine-tuned to be as open to a broad audience as they want to be. And maybe this is a rare example where the people behind this game, publishing it wise, were like, "Oh, make the game you want. We don't give a shit if it's only for a super niche crowd. We're cool with that." And if so, bravo to them. I love that games like that happen, but I think it's easy in the modern day to get into this thing where you're like, oh, all publishers want the game to be as open as possible. And so you accidentally find yourself also being like, how can I fine tune this game for it to be as accessible to everyone as possible? But I don't actually want that, is the weird thing. It's just, I think you can find yourself drifting into the conversation and then stopping and going, why am I wanting a game to be changed to be more accessible rather than just being okay with the game how it is? Not saying that you're doing that. It's just an interesting thing of the modern proliferation of gaming, I guess. Like, because most of the things are made for a large audience, you start going like, well, they could have done this better if they wanted it to be for a better audience. So
yeah, and it's funny because, like, to be clear, like, nothing I'm saying is like really, I wouldn't classify it as like a complaint either. Like,
sure. Yeah,
the game's really good, and that's part of the reason I'm frustrated with it is because the story's good enough that I'm like, yeah, I'd like to see what's going on.
It's like I said earlier, it's like it's an observation more than anything. You're like, oh, yeah. I noticed that I have this going on, and I didn't in a game that's similar. Yeah, I'm just,
it's kind of a good. I'm glad that I picked it up now, and like I can just kind of play it at my leisure with stuff like Arc Raiders, because I mentioned it to you and I mentioned in the Discord, like I've bowed out of the trophy competition for the most part, like so I'm saving stuff. Like I have Rise of the Ronin sitting on my shelf, got that on sale. I'm like, do that next year. I'll go for the trophies and that. No, it looks fine. It was like $20 I got it for, so I'm like, fuck it.
Nice.
So like, I was in a place where I was going to do a run of The Witcher or something like that. And I'm like, I'll just play this hard ass game and it won't matter for the trophy competition, but I'll definitely platinum it and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, it's been nice. I highly recommend it. It's a good game.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely look forward to getting around to it.
You have no barrier, so
no, that's what I was going to ask. So, nice. I can definitely play it whenever I get around, and I'm looking for what to play after what's coming next. So, but I'm still very much in the trophy competition, so I have to think about what I want to do.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Come on, son.
That might be what I do next. I'm just a little worried about an open world this close to Yote, because I started to feel a little burnt on Yote towards the end.
Yeah. Dude, I honestly, part of why I want you to play it so bad is I want to play the DLC so bad.
So I gotta
need my copy back. I've almost bought it like 3 times.
Chris, if I need to send your copy back, let me know. Otherwise, right now, bare minimum, I plan on starting it in January. Bare minimum. I might start it earlier.
Play the game.
Yeah. I want to do my next 3 games real quick. Shit. And then just because the main reason is that I'm kind of playing, or at least I was until the other day, I'm kind of playing them like literal juggling. Like the majority of my gaming time has been between these 3 titles. So the first one I'm going to start talking about is SteamWorld Dig 2. And that was my 249th platinum, because I started talking to you about wanting Titan Souls to be 250 because I thought that was a cool one. And then I started thinking, what trophies am I close to? Like, what can I do to pull up my completion rating a bit? Because we always talk about how you used to mention that you'd see mine and be like, damn, your completion rate's pretty good. And it is. So I started thinking, well, I know there's some games that I just kind of moved on from, even though I wasn't there was no real reason. It was just something came out and pulled me away. And as I started looking through, I was like, oh, dude, I got like all the trophies in SteamWorld Dig 2 besides the ones where you need to replay. Like, there's like 2 I didn't. But the other ones were primarily replay the game and get these specific ratings for specific things. So there's a thing where if you beat the game with a certain number of deaths, you get a certain rating in the death category, right? You get one in like the I think it's like the resources found category, how quickly you beat it, like a speed run category, how quickly can you hit the end. And then there's some secret trophies for certain things you have to do. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go back to these and just kind of knock it out because I'm very familiar with the game. It's a obvious formula. I like the formula. So that was super fun to revisit. And it acted as a really great moment to kind of not have something that had a huge amount of hours to then get to what I told you. I had 1 trophy left in Titan Souls, but I was just holding on to it. But I was really worried that for Titan Souls, I would not have the skill needed because I'd stepped away for too long. So I was kind of doing like you with Ark, where every now and then I would just hop into Titan Souls and play for a bit just to keep my skill up and then dip out to the next game until I was ready. I was like, I'm not going for the trophy. Thankfully, I know the trophy. I can't accidentally get it. So I was like, okay, we're good. And so I kept playing. But as soon as I popped the SteamWorld Dig 2 plat, fun game, by the way. If you haven't, play SteamWorld Dig 1 and 2. They both have great stories. They both have a really fun gameplay style. It's a lot about going down, digging through these mines, getting resources, making your character better, but also learning more about this world. Chris talked about some of the SteamWorld games a while back. I think you were playing Heist. Is that correct?
Yep.
So check those out if that sounds interesting to you. Of course, go look at some gameplay. But I always like to kind of go, SteamWorld Dig 2 is like this game that was an old, I guess maybe this is just of my era and of my time, but hopefully someone else knows. I've brought it up on the show a few times. It's a game called Motherload, which was a Flash game on computer. And then they did one called Super Motherload as a PS4 launch title. And it was the same game, but just recreated and focused a little bit more on some areas and kind of freshened up. And I adore that game, but it's much more arcadey. And SteamWorld Dig 2 is like, okay, we're going to do that, but we're going to give you some more lore and story building that's much more on the face rather than something that you eventually slowly learn. And really the story becomes obvious that there even was one at the end of Super Motherload, whereas there's one kind of consistently going through. So highly recommended. It's a well-priced game, even full price. I think it's totally worth it. So hop on that. But Chris, Titan Souls.
Hit me.
Even with my little bits of playing, it's interesting to me. Okay, so the last trophy I needed to do, and I don't think this is a big spoiler, it's based around the first Titan that you fight. So the first Titan you fight in the game that you come up to, you get to a checkpoint, and then right in front of the first checkpoint, there's a door that opens up and you walk in, and there's a green slime with a heart in the center of it. And every time you shoot the slime with the heart in it, it'll become smaller and split in half, and another one without a heart in it will form. And then the idea is that hopefully the quicker that you can just completely pop the heart out of the slime and then hit the heart without the slime being around it, you're done with the fight. That's how you normally beat it.
Nice. Okay.
The trophy specifically is that you have to shoot the slime over and over and over again to where you don't kill the heart until the slime cannot divide anymore. But since it's a huge ball and it keeps going down, you have to shoot every single piece that breaks off 4 times to get them to their smallest. And so you're in this little arena running around. These slimes are bouncing, trying to get to you. They leave behind this goo, and if you step in it, it slows you down. And if they jump on you, if you get hit at all in this game, you're dead. 1 hit, 1 kill. That's essentially what's going on with the Titans, right? If you hit once you find their weak spot, you hit it once, they're dead. The challenge is, how do you do it? How do you set this thing up? So have you played this game at all, first and foremost?
Yes.
I couldn't remember. Okay. So the shoot, you can sometimes leave your arrow in a spot so that you can wait for the Titan to line up and you can pull it back to you and hit its weak spot from behind. Well, here I am having to try and get this thing to break, get the heart out, but not kill the heart until I have everything down. But every time you shoot, it's like, okay, I got to be careful. I'm pulling the arrow back to me, or I could just run over to it and get it. But if I do the wrong thing, I'll hit the heart. So a few times I hit the heart when I shouldn't have. A few times I just kept getting it broke down. And I was like, I just need one more hit, but I'm getting surrounded too quickly, and then I end up fucking up. But I finally pulled off. And even though I kind of stepped away from the game to do other things, that game and the platinum is so hard, first and foremost, because every Titan has got some special way to kill them tied to a trophy. But damn, it's fun. It is taking what makes Shadow of the Colossus so fun and then combining it with what makes something like Super Meat Boy fun, or even like Bloodborne, where it's like the challenge is so high, which sometimes the Titan's hard enough on its own, but most of the time it's not. The game's pretty easy to beat the first time through, but these little special trophies do kind of remind you why trophy lists can be incredible. And it's when a trophy list forces you to play the game in a different but really fun way, and then you get to go, hell yeah, I did it. So that sense of accomplishment, I was over there in this first thing for I platinum SteamWorld Dig 2, and I think I had the Titan Souls platinum within about an hour. And so the whole hour I was just over there on my Vita, and my wife was like, what are you doing? And she just kept hearing me be like, fuck, God damn it. This bullshit. Almost had it. Just needed one more hit. And then I finally get it. And I just have that moment where you kind of jump up and you like flex your arms. You're like, woo! You like Ric Flair that shit out. Yeah. And that's when you know that a platinum was worth it. That's when you know. So the last game I was playing in this milieu of games, after Ghost of Yotei, I thought, okay, I'm going to play something on my big console. Got to figure out what it's going to be. I finally started Ball Pit.
Great game.
Got to tell you, great game. I want to preface this by saying I 100% agree with you that anybody who thinks that this is game of the year, sorry. I'm going to go as far as to say I think you're insane. Mm-hmm. The game is super fun, but it does have a diminishing return. I think that's the best way to say it, because by the time, and I have now beaten the game and I'm just doing trophy cleanup. But I think by the time you've beaten the game goes out of its way to make sure you saw most of what it is. There's still a couple of special combinations I need to do for a couple of trophies. And those are cool, and I do like those. But I think at some point, the fun and the pullback of, I want to hop into another level. I want to hop into another level. Kind of just becomes I've seen and experienced it all. Like, I want to get the platinum because I enjoyed the game and I'm close. But honestly, if trophies didn't exist, I'd be pretty all right with just stepping away from this game now.
Yeah,
but I'll keep playing it because I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, that was how I felt. It's a fun game, but by the end, I was like ready to wrap this up, and I don't see myself going back to it anytime soon. So,
well, I'll tell you, as much as I do like the game, I do have, I don't know if I want to call it a hard critique. I don't know how well I really think that this, what do you even want to call it, base building side of the game works with the combat side of the game. In some ways, I almost think the game might be more fun if it focused in on one. Because like you were saying, it's like a Brick Breaker mixed with Vampire Survivors. And I think that is a very good way to word it. But then you start looking, okay, well, what does Vampire Survivors do different? Or what does it do different from Vampire Survivors? It's like, it has this little base building aspect where you grow crops and different resources and harvest them and upgrade and build and do all these things. And it's not boring, but I feel sometimes in the game, I was like, this feels like it's grinding against what the game otherwise wants me to be doing. And I don't feel like it's as well incorporated as I would have hoped. And so you start looking at something like Vampire Survivors and it's like, it's kind of nice that Vampire Survivors was just hyper focused on being really fun arcade experience. And I think this game might have actually benefited from just simplifying itself down and being just that arcade experience. But I'd be curious to say, I wonder if there's anybody out there who's played it. I know we have a few people in the Discord who were big fans of it. I should hop in and ask Blackheart, like, did you find yourself literally head over heels with the base building aspect, or did you just feel like it was a way for them to pad the game a little? Because that's what it felt like to me. And to that end, Chris, you know what it kind of reminded me of? You played Cult of the Lamb.
Yep.
It kind of felt like the city builder aspect of Cult of the Lamb, where I was like, at some point I'm like, this is frustrating me. And I just want to go out and have fun with the game. But the game doesn't want me to, because it wants to make sure I'm interacting with this cult building aspect. And that's fun, but it has diminishing returns in a way that the core gameplay loop doesn't.
I can see that.
Yeah. So who knows? I recommend the game, but
I don't know. I found the base building tedious because it was necessary, but it never felt like it was a focus, right?
Exactly.
So
it
got
feels
to a point
so secondary while being necessary.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, well, I need to do this and engage in it and try and do it well so that my characters get better. And like you have to get an S rank thing for a trophy, and that has to do with the buildings. And it's like, okay, well, I got to figure out the best way to bounce my stuff so that I collect all this wood and all this stuff. But then, you know, it was never something where I was like, I have to focus on doing this, but it was also just important enough that I had to focus enough on it that it was annoying. And I think that was the problem. Yeah, because it wasn't even hard. It was like, okay, well, I'm just going to move all my hay to the bottom and they'll just bounce off and do this up and down. And then it was like, okay, well, I'm going to do that with my wood, and then I'm going to do that with this, and I'm going to do that with my mines. Oh, I have $1,000. I'm good. You know?
Well, and you kind of touch on something that I think is interesting. This is true on both aspects of this game, by the way. And this is not the end of the world, but it's almost like every bit of this game has a way for you to just completely circumvent some of the, or you know what I mean? I don't say completely circumvent, but it's so willing to undercut its own aspects, because like a good example is like, okay, well, there might be some fun in like, well, I've got to place these things. How do I maximize my placement to make sure I get my buildings built? Because whenever you build a building, you have to have your workers bounce off of it to add a building point to it, right? But then you unlock a character where if you just put a building around it and you only hit that building, it'll build everything within a pretty big radius around it. So you just shove all the stuff you're wanting to build around it. And in a weird way, I think that might be why it's not as fun, because the game was so quick and easy to just allow me ways around interacting with those actual set of mechanics. It was like, well, we want to do the base building, but we're worried people are going to be annoyed about it, but it's still going to need to be necessary. So we're going to allow you to just build things quicker by shoving around this character. And in a way that's cool at first. You're like, oh, this is cool synergy. But then it just becomes, you never build anything without throwing it in front of that thing and then just smacking this thing. And of course, whenever you're doing it, it doesn't challenge the way you set up the map at all, because you just bring that thing and all the things you want built as close to you as you can, so you get the maximum number of bounces in as little as a time. In a way, this kind of feels like me and you ruining the game by cutting out. But the game, it'd be different if we were doing it, if we found a way to break the game in a way that wasn't really intended. That's one thing. Complaining about it there'd be weird, but complaining about it here is like, no, the game handed me the keys to the things to circumvent the game, and it was just like, well, now this feels even more useless. Why are you forcing me to do this if you're already making it so dirt easy? And it's like, it's a tightrope.
Punishing me.
It feels like upfront punishment that later is like, oh, we're sorry.
Yeah.
Whereas if it didn't ever do the we're sorry, I would probably never view it as punishment. I'd just be like, okay, this is just the other half of the game, and I've got to learn how to work within this. And then the other thing is that the base building comes to a halt way before you're done with the game, definitely for the trophy grind. I never need to actually harvest anymore.
Yep.
Why would I even spend the time? But I still am playing the game otherwise. So it's also a point where I guess I'll give Cult of the Lamb this. Late in the game, Cult of the Lamb, they still were actively making you interact with the city building. Whereas this is just like, it's here. You can, but there's nothing forcing you to anymore. And that's kind of a weird thing. So I don't know. I like all three of the games. I think they're great because they've allowed me, they're the right type of games to do other things. So I've been playing on my Portal a ton. I have played Ball X Pit exclusively on my Portal. I have not played it on my TV at all.
Nice.
And then I finished up Yote on my Portal as well with the little bit of trophies I had left. So between that and Vita, it's been a really handheld-centric time in my life, but a fun one.
Yeah, so the Portal's been good for me too. I was surprised at how good the cloud streaming was. It was to the point where all the games I bought on sale, I made sure I could stream before I bought them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I feel like there's very few games that don't support it at this point, right?
Yeah, it's like weird games. Like Satisfactory seems perfect for the Portal, and it does not work on the Portal.
At least stream direct, right?
Yeah, because I get worse gameplay doing remote play than I do regular cloud streaming, which surprises me, but it's true. Like, it was harder to do remote play than cloud streaming. So
yeah, and of course, like when Ball Pit for me has just been entirely through the remote play. But just out of curiosity, I booted up Oblivion, and image quality wise, the image quality is better from the stream standpoint. I don't the latency I don't really notice a real difference in, but the image looks a lot crisper coming directly from them. And I guess the reason is that there's no middleman.
Okay.
As weird as that is to say, it's like you're not having to bounce from as many. You're removing one network bounce, and so the compression needed to get the video over, but not mess with the input latency too much, is just a little quicker, and so it has a little bit more room because the Oblivion remake looks fucking crazy on here. I was at a friend's house. I was like, "Holy shit, this is genuinely surprising!" And then I did some World Rally and WRC, and was also very surprised with it. So I haven't done a lot of it, but knowing it's there, pretty interesting. Now, here's my big question: I haven't spent enough time in doing. Whenever you're remote playing, I don't think you're actually using really much data at all, but I imagine that the amount of data you're using when you're streaming direct is pretty wild. So if you have data limits, the remote play is probably the better way to go, but still very interesting.
Definitely, but it works well. I'm impressed with it.
Hi, Chris. We got one of the best games of all time. Let's round this list off. Talk to me about Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots.
Dude, it's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. Oh my god. Oh, I think I've said it before as I've gone through these games. I didn't know that these were comedies.
4 in particular has got a lot of comedy.
4 is so funny. Dude, I got to... without spoiling too much, there was a moment... I'm in Act 4. So I'm actually like pretty close to the end. I think there's one more chapter left, and I'll just tell you edited messages that I sent to Brett, which was, "Am I actually going to blank?" And then was 10 minutes later, my text was just, "Dude." It's just so good. There's some stuff I understand why they did, and I kind of wish they didn't. And I think that, I would have liked this game, but with young Snake. But I guess it doesn't. Obviously, this game would be completely different, and all the story stuff, all this kind of stuff. But like playing the game outside of like it justifies itself very much, but it feels like Kojima was like, "I'm going to write myself into a corner so that you stop asking me to make Metal Gear games." That's kind of how it feels, where like, he's aging so much, and it's like, oh, he's so old. And it feels like he did that so he could stop making Metal Gear games just to proceed to make, one of the better Metal Gear games, in my opinion.
More.
Yeah, like fucking 30 of them.
That's the crazy thing, is like that was before Peace Walker. And then I played Peace Walker. Peace Walker also fucking rips. And then I was just like, what is this man doing? Because one of the weirdest things about 4, so I'm assuming, have you completed it yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm still in Act 4.
Ooh, okay. I'll say this. And I don't think this is a surprise. This isn't a spoiler or anything. I 100% legitimately thought Metal Gear Solid 4 would be the final Metal Gear Solid game. I thought we would never see another one.
Yeah.
And then Peace Walker happened, and I was like, maybe this is a deal where he worked out with Sony before 4, whatever. Who knows? I'll let that one slide. And it doesn't interact with 4 storyline in any big, crazy way. Like it recontextualizes some things, arguably, but okay, we'll let it go. And then he announced Ground Zeroes, and I was like, what the fuck is happening? And what's weird is that 4 is still the ending.
Yeah. Definitely the ending.
It's just not the last game anymore. And that's, in a way, I appreciate that. It'd be pretty wild to see them try to come out with Metal Gear Solid 6 and have it take place post 4. Be like, what's going on? So,
I mean, I haven't finished it yet, obviously.
There's some iconic parts that you're not quite to that I cannot wait to hear your take on.
Dude, I do have to say, I don't know if it's a spoiler because you meet the character so early in the game, but I was so excited to see a certain character that I was like, oh, this is so cool. They're out here.
Accompanied by another character with some erratic bowels.
Well, the descendant of another character with erratic bowels.
Well, okay. Well, hold on. No, in that game, that is the same character from Metal Gear Solid 1. I want you to know.
Seriously?
Yes, it is the same guard. He just wasn't a main named character in that game, but it is the same guard from Metal Gear Solid 1. Okay. But you're right. He is the... Yeah. So... Because what really happened is in 3, that was a reference to the guard in the first game.
Got it.
Yeah.
It's just, but like even he's a good character, which is like the most impressive part where it's like
he's a mainline character in 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has this moment with dude, okay. We have to talk because it was so gratuitous. That's the thing with this is like this game reminds me of Zack Snyder's Justice League, where
weirdly enough, you don't even have to say anymore. I already agree with you. But go ahead.
Zack Snyder in that movie, because he had unlimited time, just let stuff happen for too long.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's the scene of Wonder Woman grabbing her sword, and it's like a 5-minute scene of her just standing in midair with the sword or whatever. And one of the funniest and tensest cutscene in this game is when you meet these characters at a ferry. Do you know what part I'm talking about?
Yes.
And there's 10 minutes of helicopters flying in, no dialogue, and just guns cocking. And I was like, this is fucking incredible. It's so tense, but also like 5 minutes into the 10-minute cutscene, I'm just fucking laughing because it's so stupid. The guns are just cocking forever. But he pays all of this shit off, because without the 10 minutes of guns cocking, what happens afterwards with the finger guns wouldn't be nearly as fucking cool. And I'm just like, dude, this is fucking awesome. I don't know how people, maybe I'm just dumb, but I don't know how this series was undersold to me. Like, I don't understand how that happened, because it's Did
you feel like it was undersold to you? Because I feel like everyone, me included, was like, bro, if you play this, you are going to love it. You just never did.
I'm saying the series as a whole. Because somehow it being one of the most influential video game series as a whole wasn't enough hype for just how good the series is as a whole.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand how that, because like I had always like revered Kojima in a way, because he's such a big, he's important.
Well, it's hard not to. It's like he's the type of director where you don't even have to see his work to just understand that there's a gravitas to his name. So in the gaming community, he's a lot like looking in the movie community and being like, why can't I think of the dude's name right now?
Tarantino or something like that.
Sure. I think that's a fine one to say. I was, what in the hell? Martin Scorsese. That's the name I was thinking. He's like a Scorsese for the Tarantino might actually be a better fit in terms of how weird his movies is and the fact that he hasn't had quite as many. But you get what I'm saying. It's like you hear the name and you're just kind of like, oh, I just know that dude's a big deal, even if I don't play with it. But then you also play Death Stranding, so you have like a taste of how weird his games can be.
Yeah, it's one of these things where like I feel like the natural response to like an auteur like him, or even like a Ken Levine, is to be like, BioShock's not that good. Like BioShock's good, but it's not that good. But then like playing through all of these games, I was like, oh no, he's a genius. Like, oh no, like it's right. Like everyone's right. Like he may be annoying, and like Jeff Keighley could take his, could do with removing his dick from his throat. But like in the end, like I've nothing about this series has been bad. Like there's even playing like Metal Gear Solid 1, which you'd think you'd have to struggle through in 2025. And be like, no, this game fucking rips, dude. This game fucking rocks.
Like, and it honestly still controls pretty well. Like it's across the board. It's still a good game. It's a little dated. I honestly, someone might disagree with me here. I think Metal Gear Solid 1 in particular is the only game that actually does feel dated. Metal Gear Solid 2 has design decisions that you don't see very often anymore, but they're so well done that you're just like, this could come out today and I would believe like, oh, this is just a good game. Metal Gear Solid 1 has a few things about its design where you're like, oh, I can tell this is an early 3D game where they didn't quite have certain things figured out. But even then, it's really fucking good.
The thing is, like, I would even make the argument that if some indie team released Metal Gear Solid 1 right now exactly as is,
people
would love it, you know? So,
but what's interesting about that is that makes the fact that these games released as they are in the window of context that they did. And then you do kind of get this thing of like, I see why he was such a big deal, because he was coming out with stuff like that when no one was doing that. You know, the crazy thing about Kojima is that because he's been in the industry for so long, he's had time for other people to come up and actually start doing similar things where people are like, oh, this name has some weight. This means that. You get a Ken Levine, you get things like that. But Kojima was kind of the first director to have that kind of gravitas, short of maybe, and it's in a different way that's hard to qualify. But I think outside of maybe like Miyamoto from Nintendo, because he's kind of a household name, but for like a completely different way.
Yeah. I don't know. I think honestly, really the only complaint I have about Metal Gear Solid 4 is it sometimes feels like he was burdened by gameplay.
I don't fully disagree, but I think the way I've always been able to kind of reconcile that within myself is that because of the way the game presents itself and because of the way it feels, I always had this feeling while playing it like this is happening because he has so much stuff he has to try and wrap up. Because
that's kind of done. What I'm saying is like, I feel like when you actually play it sometimes, and this is not to take away from like the stealth section in I don't remember what town it is, but when you're following that guy and you're just in a fucking trench coat and you're just like, I'm just strolling. Oh, you got arrested, run away, you know, like stuff like that. But like, it feels to me like the gameplay had to be there, but he was making the game for the story and the cutscenes. And I think that might be my only complaint. But even then, like what's there is still so fun. Like I'm not playing it stealth right now. And it's one of the better shooters I've played this year, the year of our Lord 2025. And I still think this is one of the better shooters I've enjoyed this year. So yeah, it's just everything about it is so fucking cool. Like everyone was right. You were right. I actually disagree with your take on Metal Gear Solid 5 even more now. Like, but that's okay.
What take about 5?
Well, you'd said that it didn't feel very much like a Metal Gear game, and I'm like, it definitely feels like a Metal Gear game.
I think I do mean that in the gameplay sense to a small degree. I do think that that's fair. I mean, 5 goes out of its way to shake that up considerably. That's not a bad thing. It's just, it's different. I mainly mean that the way that they go about writing the characters and story and doling it out to you, this is going to seem like a bit of an extreme comparison, but I think it's going to help at least give the feeling of what I'm trying to get at. The way 5 approaches storytelling is much more Bloodborne than Metal Gear Solid 4. Yeah, for better or worse. Sure. And that's one of the things where I'm like, that's where it feels like it's almost the exact opposite of what you're talking about. It's like 5, he was making Metal Gear Solid strictly for the gameplay. And then he was just like, I've got to do something for characters. And I know that part of the reason it feels that way is because he literally got forced to finish it before they kicked him out. As is, I wonder what it would have been like had he had time to really do what he was wanting to do. But I still think no matter what, 5's intention was to always be a gameplay heavy first. And I think he was very okay with letting the story take a backseat because of the one big reveal in the game.
Well, that's what I was going to say is I feel like the game is designed around shoehorning in the ending to the whole thing. And it does add some context to like other stuff. And like if you're looking for the twist, like you'll find it in like small details like Venom smells things, you know?
Yeah, sure. I think it also depends on how many. I don't know that you necessarily pick that up if you haven't. This is going to sound weird.
You have to play through them all first.
Yeah, and I think it depends on how many of them you've played. Because I think it goes even further. There's way more hints in what's going on in 5 if you've played Peace Walker than there is if you haven't.
Yeah, but I think like even small stuff where like, you know, playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and then like even like I played it backwards, like in the worst way, because I played 5 was the only one I'd played until this year.
Arguably you did play it in the worst way in my opinion, but that's okay.
But then you see, I can't wait to get back to 5 after this, but after Peace Walker.
Maybe I've actually thought a lot about revisiting 5 and kind of approaching it from, it's kind of what I've thought about Breath of the Wild, where it's like, I never thought 5 or Breath of the Wild are bad games. But I think that they both make so many changes to their core franchises that have been long running. fair enough, that it was always a little difficult to play them and feel like I was getting the joy of playing a title from that franchise. Like it was hard to play Breath of the Wild and be like, oh, this I'm playing a Zelda game and I feel it right now. And that's for me, when I played Ground Zeroes, I kind of had that feeling of like, this is good. It's well done, but I'm not getting that like I'm playing a Metal Gear game necessarily. But I was like, okay, this is like a tech demo by all means. So I was like, maybe 5 will feel different. And then 5 came out and it was arguably the exact same, but just
bigger,
blowing the scope out. And I was like, well, that's disappointing, because I was kind of hoping like 5 was going to bring story still to the forefront, but make sure that the gameplay was doing, because I was like, oh, some of the gameplay ideas in Ground Zero are kind of cool, but you know.
Yeah,
so I need to actually beat 5. I haven't beat 5. I've only played a little bit of it.
It does add some like stuff where it's like, I don't think this is a spoiler because it was in the trailer, but like when you realize who the Burning Man is at the beginning of 5,
sure,
and then me now being like, oh, that character was never that, you know, and I have my own headcanon for why that was there, you know. And I think I'm right, but you know, like having the context to all that stuff and like whatever, I can't say too much more without going into super spoilers, which maybe we'll do one day.
So we need to scooch on, but I have one question for you.
Yeah.
You've gone all this time and you have not once mentioned Drebin or Little Gray.
Dude.
Bro.
That I love them. I love the little
They're
monkey
so
boy.
good. They're so awesome. Good.
Drebin's really dope.
I love Drebin. I remember that he's like one of my favorite new characters in 4. I'm just like, he's so cool.
Yeah. I will say one of the things I really liked in 4 is like them kind of explaining some of the backstory of what happened to some of the other characters, and you realizing like who Signet was and other things and all that, like all these like small connecting pieces that like make me wonder, like, did he know the whole time, or is he just really good at retcons, you know, like stuff like that?
Honestly, yeah, because there's moments in that game where I felt the same as I did for something that happens in Kingdom Hearts 1 that was paid off like 13 years later. I was like, there's no fucking way he planned this. I think he just saw an opportunity and was like, I could do this here.
Yeah, and that's
but
okay.
It's still cool. That's totally valid.
Really dope.
But what's cool is whenever you do it and you struggle to tell, because there's times where games and stories in general do cool stuff where you're like, oh, that's cool, but I can tell that they just really had to work to kind of retcon this into being that. And there's times within both Metal Gear Solid and Kingdom Hearts where you're kind of like, that's really cool, because I cannot confidently say that he didn't plan this.
Yeah, and it adds some context to stuff, you know. It's like in 1, like I didn't feel anything about that character, but then now that I've finished 3 and I'm like, oh man, I liked him, you know, stuff like that. But whatever, let's move on, because
we're ready to move on to the community's take. I'm so glad you're playing it. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on one of the It's honestly a little bit of a controversial part of the end of the game. Some people really like it, and some people think it's a bit much. So I can't wait to hear your take on that whenever it comes around. But different day, different
next
conversation.
episode, I'll probably have it be in, I think.
Yeah, I feel like you would. But I'm kind of appreciating that you're kind of like, you're not trying to rush through it, because that's a game that, okay, the first time I played that game all the way through, we were in Hot Springs and we took it with us. I took the PlayStation with us and hooked it up on this big TV that was in this condo that my mom's boss let us live in, because they had a satellite location in Hot Springs. So we got to stay there for a week on vacation while my mom was working. So for a week, we're all just fucking around playing random games. But then we start playing Metal Gear Solid 4. And then we're like, all right, well, we can't not keep playing Metal Gear Solid 4. And suddenly we are just playing Metal Gear Solid 4 until we roll credits. We never stopped. We never did anything else. My mom was so pissed because it's fucking like 1 o'clock in the morning and we're still in the living room. She's like, oh my God. But it was great. And I love that game so much for that. This is a good way to kind of go into a conversation that I want to have within one of my thoughts on the community's take. And that is the segment of the show where we put a question out there to you guys, the listeners, and let y'all have an opportunity to kind of show us a different perspective or give us a reason as to why you think a certain thing, which might be in line or out of line with what a lot of the online talk is around different topics. The one this week came from Sweet Jones as a a shout out in the Discord. He just kind of threw it out there, and I thought that's a great question for Community's Take, so we're just going to use it. And the question is simple. It's, do you agree with the following statement? It's a better game, but I liked the original more. About Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us 2, Ghost of Yotei, Horizon Forbidden West, and God of War Ragnarok. And then he goes on to clarify, the reason I asked is because it seems largely universal with the people I talk to, good clarification, and Steam sales, and I'm trying to figure out why. The interesting question to me in this is, why is this the case? So Chris, I know you hopped there and there, gave yours, but I guess we'll start with our own opinions on this. And I want to start with, real quick, one of the big reasons I did this topic as a Community's Take is I think there's been a number of times where you have rightly said, like, listen, I understand that I'm the host of a PlayStation-based podcast, but I don't always like the games that come out of Sony's first party. Now, I know this question isn't specifically geared toward that, but I also know that there are games that you liked the first one of and didn't like the second one of from first party. And I think it's kind of interesting to let's hear other people's thoughts and just kind of, I think it's good for people to hear that it's not an echo chamber. It's not a bubble where everyone thinks the same. I think we often look at in this show, my own opinions on some of these games flick around and move around. And the whole fun of playing games is to ask yourself questions like this. It's like, what do I like? What didn't I like? So let's start with you. For as many of them as you've played, I actually think you've played every single one of these games. Maybe not beaten, but you've played them all.
Yeah.
And you've played all of the ones that predated them as well. So with that in mind, let's go through. So Spider-Man 2, yay or nay? Do you think it's better? Do you prefer it over Spider-Man 1 or not?
I prefer Spider-Man 1, but I think Spider-Man 2 is the better game.
Okay. For me, I think I prefer Spider-Man 2, and I think it's a better game. But I do want to preface that with the fact that one of the reasons I feel that way was a lot to do about pacing in one part of the first game that I genuinely, from what I understand, it has been fixed. And that pacing problem doesn't even exist anymore. The game doesn't do this thing that it did on PS4, at least at launch, for whatever reason. So take into account that I am talking about launch Spider-Man 1 versus launch Spider-Man 2, which is when I played both of these games.
Yeah, so for me, I think if I was going to sit through one of them, I would rather sit through the story of Spider-Man 1.
That'd be interesting.
That's why
Doing
I would
so
rather
again,
play Spider-Man 1.
But Spider-Man 2 is so fucking fun to play. That's the thing.
It is, but I don't think it's
the meat of the question, right? It's not about which one's the
play.
better game. It's about which one do you prefer.
Yeah. I just don't think Spider-Man 2 is so much better gameplay-wise than Spider-Man 1 that I would sit through the story of Spider-Man 2, which has high points, but it is not as good as Spider-Man 1.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. The Last of Us 2. As opposed to The Last of Us 1. I think I know on this one. You don't like the story as much, but clearly you like the gameplay
Same
more.
thing, yeah.
Yeah.
The Last of Us 2 is one of the best third-person games of all time, and
Agreed.
I'd still rather sit through The Last of Us 1 than The Last of Us 2. Those are way too long.
Yeah, I think The Last of Us 2 is one of the hardest ones I have to genuinely answer here because I think I can tell you the pacing in 1 is much better. So in your kind of critique or your merit of which one would I rather sit through again, probably 1 because the pacing is much better. But I think The Last of Us 2 changes so much and is going for such a different thing than its first game, both in story and gameplay, realistically, that I think that this is the hardest one for me to point blank go, yeah, okay, I obviously prefer one over the other. I think that they sit very level for me for very different reasons. I think that the highs of The Last of Us 2, this might be sacrilege. I think the highs of The Last of Us 2, even storyline-wise, are better than the highs of The Last of Us 1. But the pacing of The Last of Us 2 in the way that they chose to do it at launch, again, now you can play this game in chronological order, and I really want to replay it soon in chronological to see if it fixes my problems with the game. Because the pacing that happens, the pacing drop that happens is a hard pill to swallow. And I know that it services the story in a really impactful way in the long run, but you still have to put up with it for a bit and that feeling of what the fuck just happened before the game grips you again. And in a way, that's part of the experience that I love, but it's a little frustrating. And I I am always curious if it could have been done better. So this one's a mix for me. It's the only one I can't answer clearly. But let's go on. Chris, Ghost of Yotei, you seem to prefer over Tsushima, but you didn't beat either of them.
Yeah, I'd probably pick up Yotei now, but I can't give a genuine opinion here.
Yeah. For this one, this is close, but I ultimately think Ghost of Tsushima is the game I prefer. And I'll get into my reasons why when we start getting into some of the feedback we have on people. But I do think Yotei is a better game. I think Tsushima is a game that's more interesting to me. Horizon, I have long made my opinion clear on this, so I got to get out of the way. Forbidden West is a better game. Actually, I don't know that I agree with that. I actually think Forbidden West may not even be a better game. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I'm not saying, but I think, because the thing about it is, it's not even the story, which has its own problems. They changed things about gameplay, some in a good way, and then some in a way where I'm like, why did you remove this particular thing? Regardless, clearly I prefer Zero Dawn. And then I think that carries through even after replaying it on the remastered version. Chris, I think considering that you beat 1 and did not beat 2, I got your answer.
Yeah, I don't need to say much. I think Forbidden West felt like it was a smoother gameplay. I don't even know what word I'm trying to say. The gameplay was smoother, but I beat 1 and did not come close to finishing 2, so take that for what it is.
The last one we have is God of War Ragnarok, which again, you beat 2018. You did not beat Ragnarok. I think that says a lot for you. And for me, I definitely prefer God of War 2018. Excuse me, God of War 2018, and I have good reasons for that, in my opinion. So let's kind of move into some of the other people's where they actually start breaking into their reasons why, or at least some of their answers. So the first one we have, I'm going to go over kind of our general ones where people gave responses over most of the games. And then there's a few people that gave responses over specific games, which means that there are a few games that have more sticking points, at least within our crowd. By the way, if you want to be part of this segment, we put it out there. You get a chance to, we give you a call to action. You get a chance to respond. We get as many of them as we can. This one brought a lot of people out. So I got as many as I feel like we can cover, but this is an interesting topic, so I got a lot of them. The first one comes from Ken N. He says, Horizon and Spider-Man, yes. Yotei, no. The Last of Us 2 and God of War. My opinion changes on if I like the first entries, the first entries in these newer Sony franchises. I'm sorry, I got mixed up. If I like the first entries or sequels more consistently. I think the quality of the first entries in these new Sony franchises were so high that there wasn't much room for a massive jump in the sequel, so it comes down to which story you prefer, the original games or the sequels. And I feel like that's kind of what Chris was talking about in the ones where he had a little bit more to say. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a fair thing, and that's also a good critique in like, hey, we're not hating on the game. It's just you started from such a high point that it's difficult to go, it's difficult to improve on. So we'll go on to the next one real quick. It's from our patron, Jehudi MD, longtime listener, friend of the show. It says, speaking of The Last of Us 2 and Ragnarok, I would agree. I enjoyed the original's establishment of the world and excitement of that. This lends to a more original story versus a continuation of that. The surprise that just disappears with sequels. There are exceptions, such as Half-Life 2, for example, in terms of game, world building, and story. But of course, he's hinting at the fact that that's not the norm. And I think that's fair, because one of the biggest reasons that I think, I'm going to focus in on the game here too. I thought it was interesting that he did those two. For me, I think Horizon's the perfect example of that. Zero Dawn's story is just so much more riveting because it's all packaged in this container of what happened. Why is this even here? What's going on? And not in the grand sense of all stories, but the story is literally unfolding why the world is the way that it is, why this character is the way that she is, what has been going on all this time. And that mystery being baked into both the world and therefore the design of what you're going around, and then the story, there's a nice little kind of symbiotic thing going on there. I think part of what makes Horizon Forbidden West so rough for me is that it's missing that mystery. It has its own mystery, but the mystery is just not as big. You can't put that can of worms back together. the beginning games of all stories, for the most part, tend to have a better chance of setting up the world, definitely for something bigger and open world, than later games do. And I really do feel that in something like that, where there's an excitement about what was happening that just isn't matched. Some of that's from other things, like the writing not being quite as good, in my opinion, in Forbidden West. I don't think it's succinct enough to handle the mystery that they're trying to balance with the story. And it just kind of fumbles some potentially interesting things with some not quite interesting enough ways to present them. But Chris, you were talking about like Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man's a known quantity, but we are still seeing a new take on Spider-Man. How much do you think that the first game setting up the world and the excitement played into your feeling about preferring the first one over the second one, as opposed to just the quality of the game outright?
I don't know. I just think they dropped the ball a little bit with 2. Because I think they had the setup for a really good story and they didn't finish it in a way that I found satisfying, or as satisfying as 1, where I think 1 is like almost a perfect story, like just storytelling wise, like reading it in a book kind of thing. And I think 2 is just a worse story with better potential, but I think they pull off what they were going for in 1, where it's like the ending of 1 is devastating. You know what I mean? Like 1 has all those really moments. So, that's my answer.
To focus in on something you said about 1 that I think is really interesting, and I don't want to go into too much spoilers territory, but this is something that was shown in the trailer, so I don't think it's wrong to bring this up. I think one of the things that you said about 2 that I actually really strongly agree with is that, about the first game that I really agree with, is that I think 1 might actually be a perfect story in a book, because a book does not give you these conflations that this game has, where one of the things I think that the first game does that impacts the story, but really has a bigger impact on the gameplay, therefore stretches the story in an unnecessary way, is the Sinister Six are honestly pretty weak in that game. And you can tell that they want them there from a gameplay perspective because they want boss fights and variety of gameplay. But even then, you can tell that they were kind of like, I'm not sure exactly what to do, because think about that. Almost all of the Sinister Six boss fights are doubled up. You're not even fighting one member one-on-one. You're fighting 2, because they're really just there to pad out the game, when the crux of the story is what's happening with Doc Ock.
Yeah.
There's not really a lot of emotional impact to anything happening with anyone else in the Sinister Six other than Doc Ock. But the game would be a lot shorter without that. So if you put that in a book, and no longer are we worried about that, we can minimize what's happening in a way that doesn't add to the time, therefore add to the pacing in a way that they can get away with in the book. And then secondarily, the first game does this thing where it creates a sense of urgency. And this is one of the pacing things I was talking about that apparently has been fixed, where the first game has this thing, and Saul had this complaint too. The first game sets up the sense of urgency with a story mission, and then it's like the sense of urgency is dire. You're like, I need to go do this now. There is no time to wait. But then it has to contend with the fact that it's also an open world superhero game. And so it throws you out of this mission into the world. And it does this between most missions, where it makes you swing around in the open world for about 5 minutes before it tells you another mission's available, because it wants you to interact with the open world. So you know how dumb it is to go outside of a cutscene that's setting up these crazy stakes and this sense of urgency, and then having Peter bounce out and go, oh, gotta check and see if anybody needs a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It's like, bro, something's happening. No. No one needs to know that. And then it makes you fuck around and do a couple of things in the open world before it goes, hey, this is what's happening. We need you here now. And I'm like, this is such a bad disconnect. Why is this happening? But in a book, that doesn't have to happen, because the book doesn't have to contend with being an open world. The book doesn't have to contend with gameplay. The book can just go, this sense of urgency is here. What does Peter do? He goes and deals with the urgent thing. And that's the interesting thing about storytelling and the mix of open world, is you have to do a lot of consideration in how those two things complement each other. And I think one of the only games that I think really, there's a handful of games, but I think the best games to do it is like Batman Arkham City, Red Dead 2. That might be it. Those might be the ones that genuinely mix the concept as good as possible, because there's not a time in either of those games where I feel like, oh, the game is fighting itself as a story versus an open world. Both of those games seem to make sure that their story beats work within the mission structure and game design structure of an open world. This next one we got here, Chris, is from Stingray X, another one of our patrons. And he says, as far as first party titles go, Sony fans know the formula. When the sequels come out, even though I still love them, they are more of the same, with a few added fixes, features, added or fixed features, so the originals fare better for me. And I think that that's somewhat true, but I think I'd push back a little bit on this, and I agree with you. But one of the things that I know, it sounds like I'm beating a dead horse on, but I really think it changes the context of how we view all this. Why was this not a problem in the PS3 era then?
I think we expect more now, no?
I don't know if it's that, because the beating a dead horse thing is in reference to me saying that I think that there is something psychologically, and I've been fighting with this a lot as I've been thinking about this question, even when he first asked it. Is it that we expect more? Is it that my expectations are built around the amount of improvement that I'm used to seeing within a sequel window time being much shorter and much the same amount of improvement, but in a shorter window of time? But then I started going to this other thing. I think one of the things that's the downside to games taking so long to be made is I think used to, and it might have been because I was a teen in these were formative years, who knows? I don't know if it's entirely that, because I don't feel like this was as big of a problem in PS4 era. And I was older, but the games are still coming out quicker. I think that part of what might be going on is that since games are taking 5-6 years sometimes to get a sequel, I think that what might be starting to happen is that people have time to gain nostalgia for the title that came before, and then the new entry is fighting nostalgia for the old game. Whereas when it was happening every 2 to 3 years, when you'd see a new sequel, you'd be like, oh, I loved Infamous, but I haven't had time to grow nostalgic for Infamous. So Infamous 2 comes out, and I'm like, whoa, I just played Infamous. Look at all these things they did better. Look at how much smoother the gameplay is. Look at how much better the character models and things look. Look at how much better the writing and world building is. Look at how they refined combat. Look at how they added this element and added that element and did this to the mechanics. And I think now I play Ghost of Tsushima in 2020 and I'm like, oh, this is a great game. I love this. This is so good. And then in 2025, I'm like, damn, 5 years ago, that's long enough for me to start feeling reminiscent about something. And I think that might be genuinely impacting the way I feel about some of these sequels, because for the most part, I do seem to prefer the originals. There are ones where I'm not going to move as much on, and we'll get there in a minute. But do you think there's any smoke for that particular fire for you? Do you think that might be a compounding factor?
Yeah, I mean, I think the longer something takes, the more excited you are for what's going to change. So then you see something like Yote, which on the PS3 would have been a 1.5 to 2 years sequel, comes out 5 years later, and you're like, okay, I want to see 5 years of improvement. And what you see is Ghost of Tsushima, but prettier. I know that's not exactly what it is. Don't stop writing your comments. But, when that's kind of what you get, it's a little disappointing. Where, you can get in the PS2 era Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. And it's not that there's not leaps in those games, but like those are the same fucking games. But you're okay with it because you got them all within 3 years?
3 years, 100%. Yeah.
So
and
you
those
can
are
deal
pretty big
with
open worlds. That's the thing. Is like at first I was like, well, why does Yote? And that's the other thing I was going through. Like, why did Yote take 5 years? And I know the answer is just whatever is going on with game development. I don't want to say I for sure know what it is, but something is making games take longer. And I don't think it's strictly fidelity. If I'm going to be honest, you know what I think it is? It might be that fidelity has made teams have to grow so big to hit the fidelity that you get lost in a milieu of too many cooks in the kitchen. And just now you have to manage this many more people. And now there's this many more people that are working over each other or being less efficient because, unfortunately, the bigger something gets, the harder it is for the left hand to know what the right hand's doing. And even though it's supposed to be there, it's either that or you get the other thing where it's like, oh, it's just layers upon layers of meetings and no one can do anything until everybody okays it. Whereas when games were smaller, you had this thing where you hear people talk about making games when it's small teams. It was like, oh, well, we all did like 7 different things each. And if we thought it made the game better, we just did it and then showed it to everybody. And then if it just sucked, then we wouldn't do it. But now it's like, oh, if we want to do it at all, we have to get approval from my boss, who has to get approval from her boss, which has to get approval from his boss, which has to get approval from their boss. And it just keeps going. And then it's like, once it's finally restocked, it's like, okay, the committee has decided that this is okay for us to work on. Now we can go all back down. And that stalls game development to a degree. And not all teams may do that, but I think that that's what happens when you suddenly have 300 people in the studio working on it, and then 200 people that you're contracting out and having to communicate with. So I don't know. This next one from Rude Cold's pretty good. It says, I think what the originals have is the fact that they were all totally new and fresh, so feel more special and unique. Largely, the sequels are a more refined experience, so possibly feel better gameplay-wise, but going against them is that they can sometimes feel samey. And I think, Rude Cold, that's kind of what we're getting at. That sameness is more okay when it's a familiar feeling. And you're like, oh, yeah, 2 years ago I did this and I like that feeling and I want more of it. And then, but the expectation grows in 5 years and you go, I liked that, but now I've also played this, which did this, which makes me think that this would be a good fit in this game. Oh, they didn't do that? Oh, well, this is still good, but now I've had more years of games and more hundreds of releases to compare things to. And so the jumps just don't feel the same, even if they're objectively good within being jumps within the franchise they're in. Chris, I'm curious on this one because this comes from Rude Days 93, one of our longtime listeners and patrons. He says these are specifically Horizon related comments, but Horizon's one of those games where you played the first and bounced off the second. So Rude Days comes in and says, Horizon, absolutely. I enjoyed the story in that game far more than Forbidden West. Also, I liked Aloy and some of the other characters more in the first game. Forbidden West just seemed like Aloy got more bitchy with people. Laugh out loud. How much do you think that specific point, did you feel like Aloy was just kind of bitchy and the characters weren't as interesting in the second, or was it something else that threw you out?
Yeah, I don't necessarily have a good answer here because I don't know that I was far enough to really get that too much. I always just thought Aloy was like a bland character. So honestly, the fact that they gave her a personality is an improvement. But yeah, I don't know. I think that I just felt Aloy was bland in 1, and I just found 2 bland in general. I think if I went back to Forbidden West at some point, I might like it. As we've seen with other games, the third time I play it, it's just at the time it didn't hit. That's all it was.
Yeah. Well, earlier I was saying that, how much does this nostalgia factor play a point? Or, how much is it just something that's not fair to the other games? And that there are a couple of games I feel strongly about. Forbidden West is one of the ones I feel strongly about. It's not that I'm reminiscent and like loving the story and I'm nostalgic for the story, therefore I can't see the goodness of the new one over what that one is. Because even the gameplay, right, which is one of the things we're talking about here, I actually think that Horizon, I won't say is a worse game, but it's also not point blank a better game. And I think that that's actually a problem for a sequel. A sequel that's a direct sequel and not just like an IP continuation that makes some changes. Like, I think it's really difficult to compare God of War 2018 to God of War 3. There's not really even any value in that, because even though that's technically a sequel, it's not aiming to be a gameplay continuation sequel in the way that Forbidden West is to Zero Dawn. So without going super in the weeds, one of the good examples of what happened in Forbidden West is, we talked about this with the episode that I had with NPS We Trust, but it's one of those things where they actually made a lot of the weapons more redundant, because now they made it to where every weapon has got multiple ammo types. And so for the most part, you can just stick within. It's like this thing where you have to hyper go to, in the first one, it was like, oh, each weapon had a use. I'm going to do this thing to have this outcome. And, oh, this is doing this. I need to use this type of ammo in this way. But in this one, it's like they made that less fun, because there was just an ammo type for every weapon that just, you could kind of almost get away with using one weapon for the most part. And I think that actively made the game worse, because I'm interacting with less of the game's mechanics as a result. And they also did this like matchup to where if you use this type of, what do you even want to call that, status effect arrow on this type of thing, it's hyper weak to this and resistant to everything else. And that's not inherently bad, but it wasn't like that in the first game. And so it forces you into playing the same way every time. So one of the things that happens in Forbidden West that didn't happen in Zero Dawn is you find yourself falling back on one method, because you specifically like, oh, the only way I'm going to kill this thing in a reasonable amount of time is if I hyper use the fact that it's weak to this, and it discourages you from being creative with the way that you problem solve in a way that Zero Dawn didn't. So they add restrictions to try and make the game more fun, and it honestly takes away from the game. And I think that that's a good example of just because it's a sequel doesn't mean it's always better.
Right.
Yeah. TT Dog 666, another listener and patron, says Forbidden West has a better story and a better ending, sneakily hidden behind the DLC. Agreed. I don't know that I think the story's better, but the DLC ending should have been the ending of the game. I don't know what the fuck they were talking about, but felt too long. Also agreed. Padded out more, and somehow they made Aloy the least likable character. It's interesting, Chris, because you were saying Aloy didn't have much character to you, and I don't think she has the story in the first game is that her personality is that she feels like she doesn't belong, and that she doesn't really have a personality because she has like a sense of not understanding why she's there and this longing of trying to figure out why she's so different, and then the game gives you that answer, and so it works. 2, they needed to give her a personality because now she's contended with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not bad, but she's like more grating than the other people, and that was an interesting choice. So if you ever do go back to it and play it, I'd be interested to hear. The game is fun. It's just less fun to me than Zero Dawn was.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's hard for me to even tell you to go back and play it purely on a gameplay basis. Whereas a controversial game like The Last of Us 2, I have zero hesitation in telling someone, I don't give a shit what you think about the story. Play The Last of Us 2 because the gameplay fucking bangs.
Mm-hmm. The best time I had playing The Last of Us 2 was when I was going for platinum and I skipped every cutscene. And I was like, oh, the gameplay is fucking great.
Yeah, as crazy as it is, I want to try and shelve this and come back to it because there's a topic within a topic right there that I don't want to derail too much, but it's about the what is the game mode they added, the roguelite mode, no survival or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah, no survivors, I think.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that in a bit, but to your point, I'm sure that's fucking fun because the gameplay is so good that if you're taking out all this other stuff and I'm just pure arcading it, basically, I could see that being fun.
Yes.
All right, we're going to round off with some Yote specific comments. I'm just going to rush them all. RMG0731, one of our patrons says, I made it about 3 hours into Yote before moving on. I also liked that in Tsushima, you feel like you earn the ghost prestige through hours of freeing villages and killing lots of Mongols. 5 minutes into Yote, you kill 3 insanely drunk people, and suddenly there's a deep fear of this ghost. And you know what? That is actually one of my complaints too. The story just wants you to believe that Atsu is this thing, and so they go out of their way to force it upon you. It's not awful, but there is something to be said that the Ghost in Ghost of Tsushima title was literally baked into the game, where it's like the point of the game is you slowly but surely having to resort more and more to these ghost methods. That's what I bring up. I don't really know that it's even a spoiler, but the conflict of Tsushima is how much do I give up my own honor that I've always been raised into, and how much do I fight the way that I was raised in order to hopefully help my people survive? And what do I have to be willing to do against these people who don't play by the same rules? And so because of that, the game, even though the game makes you think you're going to have choices, and there is pseudo choices in there, like how do you approach a hideout? You come up to a fort and you can choose to be honorable and be like, hey, we're going to do a standoff, and whoever's the better swordsman wins. Or you can just be like, I'm going to stealth and kill you all without you knowing I'm here. But the story, despite the gameplay giving you that, the story always pushes you to eventually have to choose the ghost thing because it's trying to push upon you that over time, it's the only way your people can survive. Yote doesn't have that, but it's trying to keep this ghost of name. So I feel like it's just there. And thematically, what they're actually going for with her being I can't think of the word of what they even call it right now, but the type of demon that she is, an Onryo, does thematically super work with the game, but it doesn't work with how the game builds up to that fear as well as I think Tsushima did. So that's a good one. Grime Kid, 1989, our newest patron, says, yeah, I prefer Jin's story. Me too. I like him more as a character as well. Me too. This is also the interesting thing. A lot of people are talking about Atsu being a better character, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think it's interesting. And a lot of that for me comes from the fact that I just think that Jin's story is more novel in modern gaming than Atsu's. And since Atsu's personality is based around what they need her story to be, it's not as interesting as the more nuanced view of what they had Jin doing for me, but that's interesting. We have Josh Ayers as our last one for Yote specific comments, who says, I personally liked Yote more than Tsushima, but I think I agree with the rest. And that's one of our longtime patrons. Velvet Thunder, one of our listeners and patrons, I hit him up so he could be part of this, because he is one of the people that in my mind across the board seems to always kind of land on the side of the sequels are better. I don't want to completely put words in his mouth, but I sent out to him and said, I thought you might have interest in this. And he says, to me, all the games mentioned expand on the ideas in the original for the better. The stories are better. The combat's better. The characters are better. I've played all of the games except Yote multiple times without feeling burnt out. And that's the sign of a great game to me. It's a sign of a great game. The originals are all great games too, but I think the sequels improve on them in every way. Anyway, with that being said, I don't think there's anything wrong with what you're saying. And that's why I think this question's so fun, because it's one of those things where no one's wrong. There's not really a wrong answer to be made here. I think it's just, what are your gameplay proclivities and what do you like more? But I also get where Ryan was coming from with this kind of feeling of, why is that the case? Why does it seem like so many people seem to fall on at least some of these games? You often hear, I kind of like the original better, even though this one may be a better game. So yeah, it's interesting to say. I've dove into part of why I think God of War, for me, I talked about that one being kind of iffy for me. As kind of a rounding out to that, I think God of War's thing for me is that I think all of God of War's Ragnarok's problems come from the fact that it was originally meant to be a trilogy, and then they decided, because of how long development times are, that they didn't want the story of the Norse trilogy to be ending at like in 2030. And so they decided to push the third game's story stuff into the second game. And the problem with that is that it just destroys any sense of pacing in that game, because certain parts of the game are slow like you would expect, but then the game rushes you through things that feel like they shouldn't be rushed through, because they have to put 2 games worth of story into one game. So you don't get as much character build up and slow moments and show don't tell, which show don't tell, it doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world, but Ragnarok is so exposition heavy because it doesn't have the time to show you in gameplay and visual storytelling in the way that 2018 did, because 2018's premise is simple. Spread your dead wife / mother's ashes on the top of the mountain and deal with the things that come as this one. This one is a way bigger stakes, and there's way more going on. And even though the game goes out of its way to give you a character moment with each character, they feel, I don't want to say forced, but they're so exposition heavy because they're trying to squeeze them in so that they can get to the end and then wrap this whole thing up. And in a way, it makes the ending of that game a mess, and it kind of saddens me. It's not awful. The ending is still good, but it feels like it's missing something, and it feels like they wanted to do more, but did not know how to deftly put them together. And so what I always say about the two is that God of War 2018 is a focused game, and I feel that when playing it in a way that I don't in Ragnarok. But Ragnarok is a better game at the end of it all. So
I think you're 100% correct.
With that being said, let's scooch into the news. Chris, the first thing is actually a super fast piece of news, and it's just it's good news. Sony seems to have done away with the controversial requirement that a PS5 be required to connect to the internet when installing the removable disk drive as of the latest firmware update for the system. This should prove useful for longevity of the console and pieces, piece being the removable disk drive, well past Sony's support of the machine, should that day, or rather when that day most likely comes. This is cool. I always thought it was weird that you needed to update the system to make a disk drive work when the thing was manufactured to have a disk drive be added. So what is that doing? Seems like they finally just baked it into the software, which is good. So that's a win. Hard to say anything past that. Big dubs.
Yeah, it's not much to say.
Chris, the next thing is actually really fresh. It came out this morning, and it's that Bad Robot Games, which is the game division of JJ Abrams' production company, is teaming up with Sony to publish the studio's first internally developed video game. The project is an as-of-yet untitled 4-player cooperative shooter headed by veteran designer Mike Booth, who you might know from Left 4 Dead. Currently in development for PlayStation 5 and PC. So even though this is a partnered game, with it being this seems to follow our multiplayer, games as a service, community as overall, our day and date to PC like we've thought. Studio lead and CEO Anna Sweet described the collaboration as a chance to bring a, quote, bold, innovative experience, end quote, to life, while Sony Interactive Entertainment expressed confidence in the creative team's vision and its potential to deliver something memorable for players. More details, including the game's name, release date, and gameplay specifics, are expected to come later, but no date in mind. Chris, you were a big 360 player for a while. All right.
I was.
We've talked about this quite a bit. I've played Left 4 Dead, but I never would say that I came super into it because at the end of the day, multiplayer was never that heavy for me. So I've played it, but I never was like, oh, I got to play more of it. Did you ever play Left 4 Dead? Were you big on it? Because it was one of those 360s star console exclusives.
I don't know if I would consider myself a big Left 4 Dead player, but I do like Left 4 Dead a lot. So I did play some rounds, probably maybe like 20 hours back then.
That's pretty good.
But it's fun. I would play a Left 4 Dead now. So Valve, where y'all at? Give me another one.
Yeah. Valve just doesn't seem super interested in making games as often as making money from games.
That depends on the rumors.
That does.
Supposedly Half-Life 3 is coming, and it was supposed to be announced last week and 2 weeks ago, and maybe on December 11th, and maybe at the Game Awards, and maybe it's not happening.
It's ever moving. Why not? You know,
Schrodinger's video game.
Schrodinger's Half-Life 3. Yeah. So with that said, does this because we've talked recently about how you've kind of moved a little bit from your more multiplayer focused gaming, and that you found yourself kind of hitting a little bit more with games that are a bit more geared towards single player play. One of the things that I really can't say about Left 4 Dead, I don't know how single player savvy it was. Do you feel like it was kind of Arc Raiders setup where you can solo it, but you just are incentivized?
No, strong.
Because it seemed very class heavy. Like you need each role to fulfill a specific.
Yeah, you need you need 4 players in that game.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. I'm not too surprised. It's just, what do you do with it? You excited for this?
I mean, I think I would be lying if I said yes, but I'm definitely interested in it. You know, there's nothing to be excited about.
Yeah.
But I think like as an announcement, I woke up to it and I was like, cool. Like I'll play. I'll be interested in seeing it. You know, but like it would not be an honest thing if I was like, yeah, I'm super fucking hyped, dude. Like I'm not. I don't know what it is. Nothing.
Well, I think that's a pretty measured take. It's like one of those things where at this stage, there's not, like you said, there's nothing to truly be excited for. I mean, I guess I'm not going to say someone's wrong. If they were huge Left 4 Dead fans and they wanted more of that, be excited. Yeah, I mean, maybe this feels like that opportunity for you. But
I'm excited at the like, oh, this guy did a game I like, and JJ Abrams has made movies. You know, like there's stuff to be excited about. But my hype level is a solid like 0 until I see anything else about it. But
and that's kind of exacerbated by what I've talked about before, where I know you like that companies do this, and I don't have a problem with this. But I think if this was literally meant to stir up hype, which I don't know that it was, but if it were, this doesn't do it for me, because you look and go, oh, well, we got announced Fair Games, and I still don't actually know what that game looks like to this day.
And that was announced like 2 years ago. Oh, we wrote down a loss, so our stock is looking rough. But guess what? We have this exciting opportunity with this big name company, and
that's honestly probably what it is. So it's like
that's probably what it is.
PR / how do we keep our boards looking good because we don't want our stock prices to drop. I wouldn't be surprised. This is cool. I love seeing that Sony's partnering with people, because I kind of miss the days when Sony was a little more likely to partner with people in this capacity. Though it's a little disappointing to me that we still only seem to see Sony partnering right now still towards their games as a service effort, because at some point it's still just they want something in that arena.
Well, sure, but also like I don't know. I don't know that that's necessarily true, because they still have the China Hero Project and the Middle East Hero Project in India and Africa. I and those all seem to be single player games. So they've
changed the way they interact with. They don't partner, and maybe it's smart. They partner at a regional scale at this point.
Yeah. I think the thing is, like, people will complain because people complain about everything. But I think if you're upset about the live service push, this is the best way that they should be doing it, is having someone else take all the risk, and they'll be like, yeah, we'll publish it and we'll put it on our console exclusively for 6 months. And that's exciting. So
It is, but I mean, that's what Helldivers is, right? But I think one of the interesting things is that that's still ultimately better for Sony. But at the end of the day, they're having to pay another developer to upkeep this. And so there's still money leaving Sony in the sense of, you know what I mean? Like, I know they pay Naughty Dog, but what I'm getting at is I'm actually ignorant to if they publish this and they do this, what's the cut for this as opposed to Ben's game popping off and doing big for them? Like, are they more motivated from a revenue standpoint to have one of their actually wholly owned independent studio, or not independent but wholly owned subsidiary studios make the game versus the amount that they'll have to pay someone in a scenario like this?
I mean, I guess that depends on perspective, because I would argue, like, if Valve's Deadlock, I mean, it's not a great game, but whatever. If that was a PlayStation exclusive, I think Sony would be just as happy as if it wasn't, because it's like, okay, well, we're selling consoles on the back of this game, and I think the same thing can be said here. And, maybe Ben's game would sell some consoles, but like sometimes partnering with an outside studio, like, yeah, maybe they make less money on that one particular game, but like they're selling consoles, and then those consoles all spend money. And so, like, I think it's a give and a take. If this game is really good and Sony doesn't have to pay for development, at least not to the same degree that they would for Bend, right? That's just a win for them to have.
And they're still getting more than the 30%, right?
You would think, yeah. Even if they're not, and it's again, like,
I mean, they're getting at least the 30% because of the storefront, but more so than that, yeah. It's like, depending on how much it is cutting in,
right?
It's still, and that's the thing. It's like you're offloading some of the risk at the cost of some of the margin, if that's even what's happening.
Again, it's all dependent on the game, because if Epic made Fortnite exclusive, but the thing was Sony got 0% of the money, Sony would probably still do that.
That's actually a good. That's curious. Yeah, I don't think it ever goes 0, but like even if they went small, like, hey, it's exclusive, but you only get 10%.
Let's go with 5%.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, Sony would go, fuck yeah, do it right now. Take it off everything else. We'll take it exclusively, because they would the de facto console for Fortnite being PlayStation, which I guess it kind of is now, but you know what I mean. Like, you can only play this on PlayStation is just as big a win as Naughty Dog's game did 10 million copies, and we're very happy with it.
Yeah, I think devil's advocate for that, though, in particular, is that you might be right, but then you also look, and I think one of the things I've said a lot recently, and I think I'd be remiss to not mention it here, is that it sounds easy to think that Sony would do that, but I think because of the fact that Sony's releasing all their games on PS5 and PC, that they're doing this thing where I think Sony might also realize that they'll make more. This is kind of a scenario. Is there more value in leaving the thing that's the biggest game like Fortnite on all consoles, because more people play it, therefore more people will still be playing it on PlayStation because it's a big phenomena, versus only having on PlayStation, so people having to buy a PlayStation, but the game not being as big as a result of people who are not willing to go. So I actually think one of those examples, I think, is like Fortnite, if it ever did choose to suddenly become like exclusive, they would just lose out to the next game that chose not to be, like an Apex. And Apex would probably start doing Fortnite style shit. Like, we have Travis Scott doing a concert in one of our matches, and he keeps popping up as a big guy in the zone as it keeps moving.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments on both sides. So I mean,
that's like business from a long run, right? Is like the volume versus final dollar amount. Our volume versus margin, because like we have that at work sometimes where it's like, well, we want to have good margins. I'm like, that's true, but if we push so hard for our margins to be good that people choose not to go with us, we are ultimately making less money. Even though our margins are better, we can make more money final dollar amount with less margin sometimes, depending on how you do it.
It's like my restaurant it's a burger restaurant, but we sell tacos because it brings that one person in who doesn't want a burger, and it lets you go, 4 people in the family want burgers, but one person wants a salad. Well, we can still provide the salad for that one person, even though we don't specialize in it. So it's the same thing here. But
for like any of my Texan families, Tex-Mex restaurants around here that serve like, Texan-fied versions of Mexican food, they almost always still have chicken strips for the kids' meals, and a burger that's like a burger that uses like shredded cheese to be the cheese and stuff, just so that they can cover the people who want to come but don't want to be the friction point. It's like, well, we'll still just give them a little burger. So
Exactly.
I'm going to go to our first question that we have here real quick, and unfortunately, I just accidentally clicked out of it. But we have a question from Jesus Christ. Why do I got to go through so many? We have a question about, you were talking about things getting announced through game awards, and this is a quick one, so it feels like the right time to do it. Maru asks, will we get Kingdom Hearts 4 at the Game Awards? My thought process is no, but it would kind of be hype. It would be reminiscent of the Kingdom Hearts 3 reveal at E3, because the Game Awards is the new E3 for a lot of people.
Agreed.
It's like the big moment. I know you don't have a lot of skin in whether or not Kingdom Hearts is actually there, but just from a looking at what things are going on, do you think we get Kingdom Hearts 4 at the Game Awards, or do you think we get our first tease talk, whatever you want to call it, of the next Final Fantasy VII?
Both.
Of the two. Double up?
Yeah, we get both. And then they announced Kingdom Hearts 5.
Be bold. We want them to be back to back. Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out in April. Kingdom Hearts 5 comes out in June. What's up, bitches? That would actually be a wild tactic to see a company use, but I would kind of be interested to see what would happen.
Yeah,
like when
it's like
people
announcing.
Would people be like, 30 hours done, keep the train going, bitch, Kingdom Hearts 5? Or would they be like, I need a break?
Well, I feel like it would be kind of like being like, yeah, we've renewed the Penguin for season 2 and 3 in the middle of season 1, Do that same thing.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll move on to the next piece of news, and it'll be our last one before we just go with the questions we have for the rest of the show. The next piece of news is Capcom is reportedly working on a brand new mainline entry in Dead Rising, bringing back the series' original protagonist, Frank West. According to a recent report, partially corroborated by Video Games Chronicle, the game, developed under the code name REC, isn't just a remaster or a remake, which makes sense. We just got the Dead Rising remaster. It's a fresh game. The new installment is said to be set in a massive enclosed Hollywood-style movie studio lot where Frank and other survivors must contend with a deranged film director villain who forces them into deadly trials for the sake of his, quote, perfect movie. Gameplay reportedly goes back to the series' roots, reintroducing classic mechanics such as Frank's camera, time-limited pressures, and possibly other signature elements like psychopath encounters. That said, nothing about the game is officially confirmed yet by Capcom. As of now, it remains a, quote, reportedly in development title. So that details, take the details as speculative until company makes an official announcement. Capcom are kind of crazy. Part of me goes, why would someone be willing to take this big of a risk? But I think Capcom have been doing that again and again and again. I think arguably Resident Evil 7 was a risk. Monster Hunter Worlds was a risk.
Yeah.
Dragon's Dogma 2, at the end of the day, was a risk, even though the first one was kind of like a cult classic. If anyone was going to suddenly do this, Capcom seems the most likely to do so. You a big Dead Rising fan, or have you played any of them?
Yeah, I played, I think I've played all but 4, whichever was Xbox exclusive.
Oh, yeah, launch exclusive. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Or was that
they're all
3?
good. I don't remember. I think it was 4.
Yeah, it's hard to remember.
It might have been both for all I know.
I think 3 was, and then 4 suddenly wasn't. It was on PS4 and Xbox, but
yeah. I really do want to play the Dead Rising Deluxe Remaster. So I'll definitely grab that at some point. So I mean, I put this in because I thought it was interesting. I hadn't heard the story, so it's cool. Hopefully it comes. I think the games are good. They're very much zombie slop in an affectionate way.
Yeah, the first one's like really arcadey to me too.
Yeah.
It's like you can kind of use it. Feels like an old game you'd expect to play at an arcade, like a cool Sega cabinet. Like, whoa, look what's happening.
Yeah, it's House of the Dead.
That's the only one I've actually played. I've only played the first one with the timers and being trapped in the mall, and I thought that was a cool idea. This one sounds cool. I like the idea of being on a film, or rather a movie studio lot, because
the pitch sounds sweet.
Yeah, you get all the variety you'd want from an environment standpoint. That's why like the mall wasn't a bad idea, but it is still eventually it's like storefronts are storefronts. It's a little samey, but not. That was even then the interior of a mall was a novel idea in 2005. 6 whenever the first one came out. So this is cool to see. And the reintroduction of a timer is also interesting because for a long time I feel like games were doing this thing of like remove friction points and the timer is a friction point. But I think we've really learned the lesson of at some point we need a little friction, and the game is ultimately more fun to put a timer on and make me go, you got to get it done in this amount of time. Otherwise, you suffer X consequence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's kind of like my complaints about Bethesda's RPG lightning. Like every game that Bethesda's been coming out with, they have made the RPG elements take more and more of a backseat than the game before it. And that does make it more accessible, but there has to be a point where you can go too far. And then suddenly it's like, I don't even want to play this as an RPG because it's not an RPG.
Yeah, it's true.
So to that end, considering that Dead Rising has been something else for so long of its run at this point, rather than more like the first game, I'm curious to see how people actually respond to this. I'm going to kind of dig through and see what the feedback to this rumor is. This feels accurate. Because otherwise, why would they have done the deluxe, version of the original?
I'm surprised they didn't just remake the other ones first, but
like 2, 3, and 4 and stuff, or what?
At least 2 and 3. 4 is like more modern than them, but 2 for sure could use a remake, and I like 2. I think it's fun being in the mall. But yeah, I don't have too much.
Yeah, I got you. Well, let's move over into some questions that we got then. We have a question from Grime Kid 1989, one of our newest patrons. And I like this one a lot because it kind of goes into what we're going to get with some of the other ones that we've got. And it says, your game of the year contenders that did not come out this year, but you've played this year. This year's releases haven't really been for me, but I've really been enjoying going back and playing older games. For example, been playing Kane and Lynch on the PS3 and been loving it, and Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition on the PSP. Oh, hell yeah. So, Chris, what I actually want to do first and foremost, because I didn't get a chance to move these into the document, so you hadn't seen these. Do you want to actually save full-on Game of the Year talk for the final episode of the year like we usually do and give you more time to prepare and just talk about some games we've been playing this year that have been older that we've been loving? Because one of them was clearly the game you talked about at the beginning of this episode.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. I would like to save some of that, but I could give you a quick list right now of games I played this year that are my games of the year, and I can even do them in order. You ready? Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, Metal Gear Solid 4. Anyway, that's it. That's my list. But yeah, I think for the most part, we should save all that. I did do some back-end stuff. I have all my thoughts written down in my little list of games I finished this year. So,
sure.
Yeah, I think saving it for the most part. But, if we're going to talk about some games I played, I think I said it. It's Metal Gear Solid. Like those, I played all those this year. Those were fantastic. And
did you find
Balatro.
yourself playing any other?
There you go.
Yeah, that's a
Balatro.
good point. But did you find yourself playing any other games? Because I know he specifically pointed out to older games. And first and foremost, dude, a lot of the PSP racing games are so good. I remember PSP blowing me away for what I wanted from a handheld racing experience versus what the consoles had. And the very first PSP racing game that I got that was part of a bigger franchise was Need for Speed Underground Rivals. And it wasn't the game they came out with later that was just Need for Speed Rivals. It was underground style game that was condensed down to be good for handheld, and it was super fun. But they kept going, like the Carbon version, which was called Carbon Own the City. Fantastic. The port that they did, which was like, and what I kind of liked about them is they weren't ports. They were exclusively made for PSP and its strengths, but they made sure they kept a lot of what made the big games fun, like the console brethren version. So Carbon still had all the stuff that you expected from the Carbon thing, but it wasn't just the same game. So it's called Need for Speed Carbon Own the City, and you had a different storyline, different races, different cars, same city, kind of. And then they did this one that was Midnight Club. This is my favorite racing game on PSP. Midnight Club Los Angeles. It's called LA Remix. And it was not Los Angeles from the big consoles, but it had all the stuff. You could tilt the car up on 2 wheels. You had the specialties that you could do, like the EMP blast. And it had a real chunk of the city, but it was only about a third of the map of the big console one. And I remember thinking that was fucking crazy that they were able to pull all that off. And one of the other things about LA that was so crazy on consoles was it was like insane level of customization. You could customize like the interior, you could put lights in the interior, all this cool stuff. And they had that in the PSP version. I thought the fact that someone cared enough to pull that off on this handheld is kind of crazy. So yeah, Chris, even any older games like Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 that aren't the Metal Gear Solid games that kind of struck for you this year?
Honestly, looking at my list, not a ton. I mean, I think the oldest game other than those was like Vice City. And that's, I guess it depends. Do you count Oblivion in there? Because it's an old ass game, but I played the new version.
Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning in there. It did release this year, but yeah, it's those are like the weird, how do you quite balance those? Because they are old games, but you're playing a fresh coat of paint version of them.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Which you could argue for Metal Gears, but I'm not playing the PS1 version on PS1, so
sure. It's funny because you've been playing a lot of older games, but you've been playing them through modern methods, like playing Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 through the Metal Gear Solid collection that came out, right? Yeah. So it's like it didn't come out this year, but you're still playing a modern take on them. You didn't whip out a PS1 or a Vita to play the PS1 version of Metal Gear Solid 1. You just played the collection version.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is weird because I feel like this has been a year where more often than not, you've actually been kind of on the up and up with new games. And I feel like I've drifted far more into playing almost exclusively old stuff. And a lot of that has been because whipping the Vita back out was my demise. Because since there's nothing new coming out for Vita, by nature of what it is, I'm just playing Vita games. And those couldn't have come out any earlier than 2020.
Yeah. That's also
so
true.
It's funny because like from this year, like an older game that was like a launch game for Vita that I never got around to playing that I really did find love for, and I've actually played a little bit. I didn't talk about it in the thing, but I've been going back to it some more. Is Hot Shots Golf World Invitational. It's super fun. It's a really good game for handheld spurts because if I don't feel like doing something else, I'll just load up a quick thing and try and run through a course and see if I can kind of beat it. And I actually did beat the tournament I was stuck on, so that's been cool. That's been super fun. Coming back around and like playing Lego Batman 3 has been super fun. That was awesome. Playing Sound Shapes was really fun. I played Jack and Daxter on Vita, so that's like a old re-release of an older game. So there's that. Sly 3 again on there was cool. Sonic Racing. It's like Sonic come out with a new game. I'm like, I'm gonna play the old one for whatever fucking reason. And that was interesting. I played Dungeon Hunter Alliance on Vita and I ended up really liking that game. As long as you know what it is, it's a good game. Like it was overpriced at launch, but not anymore. Playing Twisted Metal because of the show. Twisted Metal 4 was super fun. That was this year. So you can definitely see mine kind of went back because even before that, like Days Gone Remastered was in my list. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, which is yours as well. So it's like we're again playing modern versions of older games. Looking through my list, honestly, most of my year has been games that not only didn't come out this year, but came out years ago. Monument Valley. Yeah. Which that one's kind of finicky as well because they're phone games from like 2014, but they just hit console. So yeah. Vampire Survivors was this year for me, but not Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered.
Came out on PS5 last summer.
So there's that. I went back and platinum Immortal of Avium, so that's an old game. Talos Principle 2 I finally got around to. That's an older game. That wasn't it. I played It Takes Two some more to help somebody, which is funny. Game. Yeah. I replayed Sonic Frontiers. Dude, my list is like overwhelmingly old shit. I played Persona 5. End of last year, actually, Persona 5. So that doesn't count.
Game. Great job.
But so yeah, I feel like I've just been on a I don't want to say that this year's games aren't hitting for me. I'm just preoccupied with things that are old and I've had fun with that. It's kind of cool playing games that I've never played that other people have played because it's like none of these are like legendary games, I would say. But it's just cool kind of being like, oh, I have a new frame of reference I didn't have if someone brings up a game from their past. Kind of like you, but yours is a legendary series. You suddenly have the ability to go, oh, yes, I do know about Metal Gear Solid. I would like to talk to you about Metal Gear Solid. And that's fun. But with that said, Chris, I think the other question then is going to fall into the same thing. So Jehudi and Rude Cold, we'll get there. I think we'll go ahead and knock this one out, Chris. I think you'd feel comfortable doing this. The other question we got was from Jehudi MD and Rude Cold asking for our Game of the Year list. So again, that'll be next episode. But then they both asked something along the lines of, what's the most anticipated game for next year?
Oh, God. The Haunted Chocolatier. I don't know if it's coming next year, but that's probably up there. Judas would be a good one.
Did Mina the Hollower that moved to this year still, right? It's just later
It's
this
still
month.
the end of this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I'm
That's what I
waiting
thought.
for my Kickstarter code to show up. I'll be in the credits of that game. It's so exciting.
Is that like an exciting pull for you?
No. I did it so I could get the game. But it's cool. Like, I'll be there, so that's nice.
Yeah, I think Kickstarters are always interesting with that idea of like, oh, I'll look at it and I'll just really tell myself, like, if I feel like I'd buy this game anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and kickstart it because it's cool to help somebody out. And if I'm going to get it anyway, I'm just front loading my purchase.
I like Yacht Club, so I'm like, yeah, I'll help you.
Oh, I think Yacht Club is one of the easiest ones because I think Shovel Knight's like the glowing success story of Kickstarted games. You know, some of the ones I've done, the only two I've done are Pray for the Gods, which was good. I enjoyed it. I got what I wanted out of it and I got it cheap, so I don't mind, but it wasn't like some massive success of a game that came out. Maybe we'll go, maybe we should reconsider kickstarting games. And then this game that's still not out to this day, and it's like a Pokemon style battling game that I can't even remember the name of because it's been so fucking long. And I get updates on them still to this day, mind-blowingly. I'm going to see if I can find it real quick. Kickstarter. And see what my Kindred Fates is the name of the game. Can I see when I kickstarted a game, Chris?
I'm not sure. I don't know how to see it.
Yeah, I'm more than anything, I'm just kind of interested if I can see. Because if I had to guess, this has been 7 years, 8 years, which is a long time.
Yeah, that's crazy long.
Let's see. When did Kindred Fates Kickstarter? Oh, okay. It's not that bad. It's COVID felt long. It's been 5 years, but we're at the end of it's January 2020, so we're about to be 6 years.
Dude, I mean, Mina the Hollower said delivered in December 2023, so that tends to be the thing. You're waiting. You're just waiting on these games.
Yeah, waiting forever. I hope they can live up to it. If I had to say my most excited game for next year, you know, this might sound kind of bad, but I've not really been on the up and up of the games enough to feel confident in even saying a game that I know is intended for next year. So part of me wants to like weasel out and say like Wolverine, because I am genuinely interested in what they choose to do with Wolverine. And I'm glad to hear that it's not open world. Like they've basically already said like it's not going to be open world, but I wish that there was a better answer than that.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost on what's actually coming next year. And then, like, the easy answer is Grand Theft Auto 6, but, like, I don't know if that's coming. So
that's the other thing. But I think for me, it's like, and this is not to undercut the game. Actually, I don't know if I said it with the episode that you were on, but I've been wanting to go back and replay Grand Theft Auto 4 and Red Dead 1. Definitely now that Red Dead 1's easily accessible on PS5 yet again. And really, really try to reconnect with those games and kind of see if I can change my opinion on that generation of Rockstar games. Because for me, currently, the only game that Rockstar put out in the PS3 era that I really genuinely loved that was developed by Rockstar and put out by them.
Agent.
No, there's two. What's that?
Agent.
Agent. Wouldn't that be great? No, it's Midnight Club Los Angeles. And then I guess I'll give them Max Payne 3 was actually a killer game.
Oh, Max Payne 3 fucks, dude.
And
the tires.
I'm pretty happy with both of those, but I have problems with both Red Dead and it's like retention problems. It's like those games fail to keep me interested for a long time, and it's hard to even describe why. Because I really wanted to like Red Dead. I was so excited to finally get it and try it. Because my wife bought it for me at the same time as Heavy Rain, and Heavy Rain bangs so much that didn't help. I love Heavy Rain, man. I love it. There's nothing you can say. I know, but I can see it. It's in your face. I can see it in your eyes. Mike, don't do it. Mike, you're going to die. Shout out to Krispy Kreme prior to Froggy Fresh Days. But yeah, I want to change my opinion on those so that maybe by the time that Grand Theft Auto, I want to retry to change my opinion on them so that maybe by the time Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out, I am actually excited for Grand Theft Auto 6. Because right now, I'm not. And you would think that the fact that I liked Red Dead 2 would move the needle for me, but they're very different games. So unless they start showing some stuff in Grand Theft Auto where they're like, the whole game's playable in first person and there's going to be slow, thoughtful moments, I'm probably going to be like, I don't know. But we'll see. Because maybe, here's my idea, Chris. If I can change my opinion on those two games, then I can maybe try Grand Theft Auto 5 for real, change my opinion on it. And then maybe I'll be excited for 6.
Sounds like you got a lot of game to play, my brother.
I know, that's the problem. It's a lot of hours of games. I'm over here just thinking about Grand Theft Auto 4, Red Dead 1, and Grand Theft Auto 5. That's like my first 3. That's like my first half of the year next year.
Yeah, I mean, if you went for platinums, you can get through those games pretty quick. But
I could probably do those like one game a month for January, February, March, realistically.
Yeah, I think so.
But do I want to?
Red Dead 1 would be like a 50-hour platinum. You're not going to platinum the other ones, so.
That's true. I'm going to give a slightly different answer because as long as it doesn't move and as long as it still stays looking as cool as it does, I'm probably going to say Phantom Blade Zero because I brought that up earlier in the show. I think it looks really cool and it's a little bit more, it's a little more fun. There's a little bit more going on to it than just Wolverine. I am curious in Wolverine, but Phantom Blade Zero being like an entirely new across the board thing, that seems exciting. It seems like it's something worth getting into. I'm a little surprised you didn't say Slay the Spire 2, Chris.
I don't know if that's coming next year.
You don't feel very confident in it?
No.
I think a lot of people are probably throwing out Requiem, but having not played 8, I don't want to necessarily say I'm excited for 9 yet.
I mean, I'd be excited for that. That's a good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah. There's no way it's going to come. I was going to say the Silent Hill remake, but there's no way. It's just not. It's not going to happen. I'll give one more honorable mention because I think you and I have talked about this. I'm very iffy on it, but at the same time, it looks cool. Crimson Desert. Every time I see it, I'm like, God, this looks so cool.
Doesn't look real.
But I don't trust it. And I wish I did. But there's no way a studio of this level with a game as popular as Black Desert was and still is to a degree would risk it by faking. But then again, you thought that about the team that brought you The Witcher, and a lot of Cyberpunk was faked. So let's just be real to what we're talking about here. None of what they showed in that 30 minutes extended gameplay that came out like 3 years before the game was in the game. None of that was right.
Yeah.
That was not the game. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. I want to put the question around on you guys. What are y'all's most exciting or most anticipated games for 2026? And I guess a spin around a little bit more on Grime Kid's question. What are you excited to play next year that did not come out, that's not going to be out next year, but rather something a little older or something from this year that you were just a little behind the ball on? Peace Walker. Actually, I really want to play Peace Walker again. If it wasn't for fucking trophies, I kind of want to play it on Vita.
But it's supposed to be real hard, so maybe not the place to play it anyway. Yeah,
that's a good point. But then again, I'm not doing the trophy competition next year. I'm giving it my all this year, like I did last year. And I wouldn't say I got snubbed, but the rug got pulled out from me at the end of the year, surprisingly. Good on you.
Well, I wonder what that's like.
Hey, look, Chris, if anything, I got what was coming to me.
Yeah, you earned that.
This year,
thank you.
But this year, Chris, I'm going all in and I'm not hiding anything.
But what happens if you don't win? Are you going to be like, fuck, I got to do it again?
No, I'm just out. I'm out. So with that said, for anyone who's still listening at this point, before we round out, I want to throw something out there that Chris and I have kind of hit back and forth to each other. There's a lot of reasons why it would be difficult to do. But for as long as we keep doing this competition, how do you guys feel, for those of you who are involved in the trophy competition, about the idea of actually getting one really nice trophy made, and every year whoever wins gets the trophy sent to them, and whenever you get it for the year, you add something before you ship it off that marks it as you having had it, and then you ship it off. And we kind of have this sisterhood of the traveling pants, brotherhood of the traveling platinum. And we ship it around, and we'll pay for the shipping for whoever it is that wins, but we ship it out to whoever wins, and they hold on to it for the year, and it's like the belt.
I want that.
And that's maybe it is a belt. Maybe I design a PlayStation Platinum wrestling belt, and in every year the competition is for the belt. Who's going to win?
I like it. I'll go hard, display it right here in the back.
And then a belt would be cool because it would be big. So if I hung it behind me, you'd be like, there it is with a spinning platinum in the center.
That would be sick.
So with that said, we'll talk about our games of the year next year. We appreciate the questions from you guys and look forward to talking about the games that kind of pushed us. That said, expect next episode to be spoiler heavy because I don't think that there's a great way. I won't say spoiler entirely, but to some degree, we're going to have to talk about spoilers and what made some of the games so good because to at least some degree, part of what made a lot of the games I love this year so great have specifically been because of the story.
Yeah, I feel like if you're listening to a Game of the Year podcast, you should expect that I'm not gonna do the, oh, well, I can't talk about this character I loved and made me so excited because it's a spoil. I'm not doing that. So be prepared.
Because you have to do that thing. Like if the reason the game was your game of the year is because of a character that's a late reveal, and so you don't want to talk about it, and people are like, who the fuck is that? It's like, sorry, he's part of the reason, or it's part of the reason why I love the game, so I'm with you. But Chris, thanks for joining me as always, man.
Yeah, brother.
As a shout out to our patrons who go to patreon.com/Nartech and give us a little $1 per month, which we are so thankful for. It allows us to do this show without having to dig into our own pockets, and that's a huge benefit. So without further ado, we always shout them out at the end of every episode. And we're going to start with our newest patron, Mr. GrimeKid1989, FR Damian Quigley, Ryan Goldner, Low Rate Nate, Spencer, Brandon Edwards, Alex, Barry Rogers, Stingray X, Matt Tubbs, Bailey Robertson, Mark Schutz, Rude Days 93, Kevin Bacon Bits, Danny Villalobos, Jehudi MD, No Fate, Josh Ayers, Derek Porter, and Sean Santarud. Thanks to each and every one of you. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.